Hello and welcome to Pop Culture Shark, a live stream about all things pop culture. I am FinalMonkey,
And I'm Caleb.
and today we are going to have a debate about what are the greatest comedies of all time. Uh, there's about a 20-year age gap between us, so we have a lot of different opinions when it comes to comedy.
And arguably, I would think the strangest one is the same for both of us. Like, we both have the weirdest one but on our lists.
Yeah, but I think I introduced you to that movie, so that's
You
my
did.
that's my
You,
fault. So
you did. Whenever we get there, I have a funny story about that. But yeah, we'll get there when we get there.
awesome.
But anyway, as far as weekend checkup, um, I have been finally getting around to Uncanny X Force. I believe is it Remenders?
Yes, Rick
Uh,
Remender.
so I read the first 10 or 11 issues. It's really good. As soon as I got to the Dark Angel saga is whenever I stopped because I'm like, I want to talk to you about it before, because you said that the Dark Angel saga is one of the best arcs in comic book history. Is that what you? I don't want to put
uh,
words in your mouth, but
one of the best X-Men stories ever told.
okay. I don't know. I feel like best X-Men stories ever told would have to go in greatest comic book stories ever told, because the
Oh
X-Men are just
yeah,
that good.
yeah.
You know what I've really been considering picking up? I want to, because we're getting closer to the fall of X. I'm really just curious as to where it goes, because it seems like it's going to be the end of what Hickman started, and it's like morbid curiosity at this point.
Yeah, you kind of want to see how the train wrecks. You want to see the
Yeah,
explosion.
yeah. Who is it right now that's going with it? Is it Kieran Gillen? Because I like him.
Um, what is the guy's name who did Immortal Hulk? He's involved too. I don't know. I haven't been keeping up as much as I was at one time. I can't remember the name of the Immortal Hulk guy.
Immortal Hulk, is that the 2018 run?
I think so. Was it only
Uh,
2018?
some guy Ewing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's him.
You like that, right?
I did until I didn't. Yeah, I liked it. The ending's weird.
Sure. Which, you know what? With a run that starts off with House of X Powers of 10, if this doesn't end weird, I'd be disappointed.
Yeah. Um, so I'm trying to remember what the first two arcs of KX Force are. I think the first one's where they have to go kill Apocalypse.
Yes, which is a fun way to start off your run.
Yeah, yeah. And then the second one, I believe, was Deathlock. Is that the
Yeah,
second
it,
story?
it is Deathlock, yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's it's really funny. I think the description was on their first mission, a new team of assassins kill Apocalypse, I think is what the description is, which I think is hilarious. It's like on the Suicide Squad's first mission, they are tasked with killing Darkseid.
Right.
That honestly, that's kind of what I'm digging about X Force. Is it honestly kind of reminds me of a Suicide Squad.
hmm
And Suicide Squad is like just my jam. It's my favorite comic book. So I'm really digging this so far.
Yeah, we might when you're done, we might both go back and check out the Kyle and Yost original X Force run because it's very similar. Where Cyclops has made a hit squad that Wolverine's leading to go take care of the dirty work.
How when like the originals? When was X Force like originally?
What was I can't remember the name of the crossovers they did, but it's where Hope came from, where the they were all looking for baby Hope and all that because it's the first
Oh,
new mutant
isn't
born.
it? Is it Messiah or something like that?
Messiah Complex, yeah,
Messiah Complex. Yeah.
that's where X Force sprang out of, the first one, and then this new Uncanny X Force is the follow up to that.
Okay,
So
gotcha.
there's a whole X Force one before this, but it's like X-23 and Hepzibah from the Starjammers and like Warpath and stuff.
Yeah,
It's a different team.
gotcha. I don't mean to make this like an X-Men intro. I've just had X-Men on the brain for the past week.
No, that's a great run that a lot of people, it doesn't get enough credit, but
Yeah.
like when like comic book resources used to, when they used to be a good site back in the day, they would do a poll of the top 100 X-Men stories, and I think this was top 3 was Dark Angel Saga. It was like Phoenix Saga, Dark Angel Saga, and Age of Apocalypse was the fan votes for the top 3 stories or something like that.
Gotcha. Can I put out a hot take? Are we allowed to do that?
Yeah, the Phoenix Saga is overrated. Is that what you're gonna
Yeah.
say? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I
I,
mean, it was groundbreaking at the time and
sure.
shocking.
Yeah. No, definitely. I mean, like I mean, I'm a DC guy. I can say the same thing about Judas contract for Teen Titans, which is pretty much the same thing as the Phoenix Saga. Um, it's overrated as well as far as Teen Titans.
And
Um,
if people don't know their comic book history, you know, they see Teen Titans go on TV and go, "Oh, Teen Titans are a joke." There was a time where Teen Titans was as popular, if not more popular, than X Men.
oh yeah, like Teen Titans and X-Men. Chris Claremont and Marv Wolfman just kind of ruled the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, there was a big rivalry between the two, and I believe there was there was a crossover comic, I believe.
There has to be.
Yeah. Um,
What one last thing about X-Men? You know what I heard about X-Men 92? That first of all, I don't even know when that's coming out.
next year.
I think they said that last year.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's being reworked after Victoria Alonso was let go. So the writer strike could be affecting that. I don't know. It's hard to rework an animated show because it takes so long to produce.
Yeah,
I guess you could re-record dialogue would be the easiest way to change it.
yeah. I kind of hope that they're reworking it because from what I heard initially about what the storyline that they, because you know how like the old 92 X-Men animated series, I think first of all they did a pretty good job about adapting about like adapting the Chris
Classics.
Claremont story.
Yeah.
Yeah, which by the way, it's X-Men 97 is the name of the show. 92 is the name of the comic book. But the thing that they're going to be adapting, and this is just something I've heard, is Onslaught, and I don't know why.
The first chapter of Onslaught is one of my favorite X-Men stories, and then it goes downhill from there. The very first chapter where they deal with the X-Trader stuff, I think that's a really fun comic book where Onslaught is just toying with the X-Men. They all have to survive, and Beast betrays them. She finds the Dark Beast, and there's, you know, it's just chaos. I think that's a great issue of X-Men, and then it just spirals out of control. And I think Mark Waid has said that Onslaught was just supposed to be Xavier, and that Marvel made them change it to make it like this entity that was pulling from Xavier and Magneto, and I think it kind of ruins the story.
Yeah, gotcha. If it were me, just throwing out my my pitch for throwing out my pitch for X-Men 97, I would kind of skip the 90s because you know I think the last big story arc that they adapted in the Ultra was the Phalanx Covenant.
Mm-hmm.
And then they did Age of Apocalypse and Legion Quest like before that. So I guess Onslaught and Operation Zero Tolerance are like the two other ones that you could do from the 90s. But I would probably just skip those and start with E is for extinction and just do the.
Yeah, but you also don't want to burn through all your storylines. Although there's stuff they skip. They could do. Because I don't think they ever did Inferno,
I don't
or
think so.
Executioner Song, or there's other stuff they could do.
They didn't do Executioner Song. That's
Well, I
that's
mean
one and
that would be we shot Xavier in the head. Duh, duh, duh. Here's the mystery.
I, I I I guess it really depends on like what kind of show this is going to be. Like, is it
Yeah.
going to be? Is it going to be kind of like I guess kind of like how Young Justice became more adult, or are they really going to try to be like this is the sequel series to the X-Men show, and it's going to be very similar in that it's going to be in that vein?
I,
If that's the case, I would have gone with E is for Extinction, because honestly, you could go from E is for Extinction, and then at that point is whenever you do Messiah Complex and introduce Hope, and really you could go. I mean, there are some good X-Men stories all the way up until Battle Battle of the Atom, because like you could do Schism and
I was just thinking that if they're like, if because I think tonally it should be like the old Saturday morning cartoon. You shouldn't change that, and you can up the violence a little bit, but not go crazy. But I'm like, if it,
Wolverine should be able to use his claws.
oh yeah, but if they start dropping like f bombs and stuff like modern Star Trek or modern Twilight Zone, I'd be very disappointed at Disney. I mean, I can't see them doing that because it's on Disney Plus. They try to stay
Right.
pretty family friendly, but I could see this cartoon going the wrong way very quickly. So we'll have to wait and see.
Okay, gotcha. Well, that's my X-Men
Yeah.
weekend update.
Look, we
What
could do a whole 2 hours of X-Men easily. We were less than 12 minutes. That's pretty good for us.
I know. You know what? Yeah, that's what we need to do. I think we've done a bunch of X-Men, but we need to do more. I'm getting back. The reason I'm getting back into X-Men is because, like I've said the past couple weeks, I've been playing more and more Valorant, and I never knew like the lore of Valorant. I've always just played the game, and then I started watching like the lore videos, and I'm like, oh, so this is a Counter-Strike game where you play as X-Men in the Spider-Verse. And now I'm like, oh, you know what? I haven't gotten into X-Men in a long time. So that's if you want to know where the interest has sprung, well, there it is.
Nice. So as for myself, we I was talking to my youngest son and realized he hasn't seen a lot of movies, so we're kind of doing the summer of movies. Making
Is
both
this
like the
the youngest or the oldest?
youngest. I mean, the oldest really doesn't watch movies, but the youngest is more interested. So we're kind of forcing the oldest to watch them too. So we started with the Back to the Future trilogy. We've watched the first two so far. I think they've seen part three actually, or at least they saw parts of it when we were like on vacation one time. So, but that's going well. So we have a list of movies. And then the other day, it was just me and my wife watching TV, and I put on Dread for a few minutes. So like everybody told me to watch this movie. We'll just watch it for a few minutes, and if we like it, we can watch it later. And then we sat there and watched the whole thing. So, um,
Oh, so you finally watched Dread?
yeah.
It's phenomenal.
It's really good. Yeah, we did not turn that off. We were like, oh, I mean,
Man, it's
we
so good.
we had other stuff to do, but I was like, this is pretty good. So, I don't think it did great at the box office or whatever, but
Nope.
I'm hoping that's one that finds another life and they give it a chance to, because that was great stuff.
Oh man, I first of all, Lena Headey just knows how to be a villain. She's great.
Oh yeah,
But like I think that like that's the best death is like you inject her with slow mo and then throw her down the building.
yeah,
So sick.
yeah. And then other than that, just playing Tears of the Kingdom. I'll say if anybody's out there playing the game, check out the Dazzle Fruit. That stuff's pretty cool.
Dazzle fruit is cool. I'm still trying to figure out what the bubble gems do.
Oh, you don't know what the bubble gems do?
No.
We'll talk later,
All
or I'll
right.
give you some hints.
I've got like
There's
a bunch of them, and I don't know what they do.
there's a side quest you need to do. Somebody you
Okay.
need to find. Yeah. I'll have to ask my oldest where that side quest starts, and I can kind of point you in the right direction.
Okay.
But yeah, some enemies are very weak to Dazzle Fruit. And so since I found that out, I'm running out of them because I'm using them so much. I don't even fight these enemies anymore. It's like, oh, Dazzle Fruit, Dazzle Fruit.
Oh man, I've whenever I started traversing the depths, I started running out of the light bloom
Oh yeah,
plants, and
and you know to throw those. Don't use the arrows, right? You just throw them.
I figured that out eventually.
Yeah, the game's like just attach it to an arrow. It's like no, never attach to an arrow. Just throw them.
If you have a Lionel bow, then I would use the bow because the Lionel bows give you like the triple arrows, and
Okay,
so and then it shoots out 3 of the light blooms, so it makes it brighter.
gotcha. Um, but yeah, I'm like 3 dungeons in. I've uncovered most of the underground. I've finished all the newspaper quests, and I've done all the Poe quests, and I'm kind of trying to armor up Link before I go much further. I need a lot more Dazzle Fruits before I do Gerudo because Gibdos don't like Dazzle Fruits. So,
They don't like fire fruits either.
okay, then maybe I won't get so much Dazzle Fruit then.
Oh yeah, I mean like they catch fire and then they're done. Which
yeah,
I know that because that's an old reference to the old Zelda game where you could
right, yeah,
eat the Gyptos with the candle.
right. And then what else am I doing in that game? I'm trying to think. I'm still having a blast though.
Yeah.
It's still very addictive.
What's your go-to armor set at this point?
I like to pretend that Link is a freak when he walks up to people. So I have the miner mask that I wear.
Okay.
Have you seen that one?
I have.
Yeah, I wear that, and then I wear the. Right now, I'm going just for strength, so I'm wearing the. I think it's the Knight's Garb, the shirt, and then I think I want to say it's the miner pants that I was wearing. I was wearing the Link's Awakening mask for a long time, just to freak. It makes all the cutscenes really funny.
It does.
So
I at this point I think like the the go-to for me, because I like to mix it up a little bit. I have the barbarian helmet. I've always loved the look of the barbarian helmet. It's so cool. But I'll use the glider tunic because like having that air mobility is so paramount in this game, especially because I spend a lot of my time in the sky. And then I'll also use the trousers of the depths, or the gator of the depths. Do you have any of the do you have the armor of the depths at all?
yes, I just got all those.
Okay,
So I
gotcha.
do wear those when I'm down in the depths. Yeah.
You know, I was never an armor hunter in Breath of the Wild, but like they made the armor so much more vital in this game.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like
Um,
Breath of the Wild, you could go through with the champion's tunic and the Hylian hood, and that's all you needed.
I mean, you could still do it in this game. You're just gonna die a lot.
Yeah.
And I play this game totally different. I use arrows so much. Like Breath of the
Mhm.
Wild, I hardly ever used arrows, and
Oh
that's like
yeah.
the main weapon in this game. So, all right. So Pico Pond is where your side quest is about bubble gems.
Okay, Pico Pond, gotcha.
Yeah.
So you're a bigger Majora's Mask fan than I am, have you found the deity armor and the Majora's Mask yet?
No, but my oldest talks about it a lot. He's like, "We gotta fight 4 Lionels." I'm like, "Okay, well, let me armor up first, and then we'll." we'll go
First of
to
all, first of all, it's 5.
5 Lionels. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's and so what's fun is you actually get all of your best like so the silver Lionel horns are actually the best things to fuse to like your weapons because it's plus 55 attack. And so I have my travel medallion right there at the underground arena. And so every time that there's a blood moon, all 5 Lionels actually respawn. And I've gotten really good at fighting the Lionels.
Mm-hmm.
My new farming technique is I go to the Hyrule Castle to get like all the Royal Guard weapons, and then I go into the depths with my travel medallion to get all of the Lionel fusion like material. So now I have like a sword that does 174 attack.
Nice. That's ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah. What have you thought? What did you think of Summer Games Fest? I know we were talking a little bit about it.
I'm not a big. I mean, I don't have an Xbox, and I don't play PlayStation that much. But I thought it wasn't bad. I thought the the Nicolas Cage part made me laugh really hard because he's hyping up. Oh yeah, I'm in this game. I had to do all this acting, and then when it showed the cutscene, his facial expression never changes ever.
I know.
And I was dying. I was like, "Did you just walk in and just give me the lines? You can scan my face once, and I'm done, and I'm out."
It's like Willy's Wonderland, where Willy's Wonderland is another one where like it's his best acting ever, and he doesn't have a single line of dialogue.
Well, once a person has a line in the movie or TV show, you have to pay them more. That's why a lot of extras don't have lines.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's one of the reasons they did that. Like, oh, we can get Nicolas Cage, but if he talks, we can't afford it. Gotcha. So it's just like, okay, you have no lines.
I mean, it's a great movie. I love doing it that way. Another thing, you know how Cameron said that he loved that one Splatoon ripoff because of the audacity?
Yeah.
The winner for Summer Games Fest is Pal World. Pokemon with machine guns.
I was so confused, and my oldest like, oh, that's an older game,
Is it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's come to whatever system it's coming to now, but it's been around for a while. And I'm like, well, how has Nintendo not shut this down? Because those designs were clearly,
I mean,
some of the characters.
That was Latios. That was just straight up Latios.
Yeah, they changed the color a little bit. It's like it's Latios, and yeah, I was very confused, and apparently, as long as the gameplay is not exactly this, I don't know. I still think they're on legal shaky ground, but I guess it's just different enough that Nintendo, like, it falls in the parody territory. But still, I don't. It's like trying to take on Disney. I don't know if I, it's like Shrek tried to take on Disney, but they made there's no way you get Pinocchio Shrek confused with Disney's Pinocchio. They're very different.
Yeah. Right. And then you've got Del Toro's, which that's just a block of wood. It's amazing.
Yeah, I need to watch that still.
It's so good. Good.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I thought about what I was gonna do. Because I told you that if we got more Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, that I was gonna do something embarrassing. And I thought about it, and then what you told me this morning, I was like, oh man, I can't do what I was gonna do embarrassing then.
Oh.
Yeah, because what I was going to do that is embarrassing would be me rescinding my catchphrase. But now my catchphrase holds a lot more weight.
Yeah, I haven't seen that reported too much late yet, but I did. That was on Reddit where I saw someone, basically, someone accused the Namor actor of doing what the Kang actor did, or something similar. But
Let's just say that they're really good at picking villains.
I don't know the details yet, so I don't know if that's like just breaking, or it could be a crazy person accused him. We don't know. We don't know the details. So,
The
but
CBR just posted about it, so
okay. Um, so yeah, whenever there's accusations, you got to be careful saying,
of course.
it could have happened, may not have, who knows. So,
But anyway, yeah, I guess we could have considered that the news portion talking about Summer Games Fest. Anything else that you can think of?
the Mortal Kombat trailer when Kung Lao threw the hat at Sub Zero to hit him in the back of the head.
That was great.
I laughed so hard.
Oh man, Kenshi looks like this is like Kenshi's coolest design. He's got like the suit, like he's looking fresh.
I was confused at first because I thought at first, because I forgot about the cameos, because when the little Sub Zero popped out with Kenshi, at first I thought that was Noob Say Bot. I was like, what did they
Oh,
do
gotcha.
to Noob Say Bot? Because of Smoke and Sub Zero. But
Oh
yeah.
man, I definitely want that to be a cameo. So back in Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance, there was a character called Noob Smoke, and it was it was like a tag team because in the Dark Age Mortal Kombat games, that's whenever you could switch like fighting styles and stuff, right?
Right.
So for Noob Smoke, instead of switching fighting styles, you actually switched like characters.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I'd really like for them to do is for Robot Smoke and Noob Saibot to be in the game, so that way Noob Smoke can like be like a legit combo again.
I hope they cram so many of those Deadly Alliance characters in as cameos. I think that'd be so funny.
So Ed Boon posted a picture on Twitter, and it was the character select screen for Mortal Kombat 4, and he said someone's making their grand return. And I'm just like, okay, so that's either Kai,
Mm-hmm.
Jarek, or Rico, because Tanya's already come back in Mortal Kombat X.
If Jarek comes back and does a reference to the ending, like the yell or something,
Yeah,
that would be so funny.
yeah. Oh man, and so one character that I would want from like, honestly, from Deadly Alliance, I think Kenshi was kind of Nitara would be really cool for someone to come back.
I think she's confirmed, didn't she? Wasn't she one of the list of the DLCs or something of cameo characters? They had a list of cameo characters in the DLC.
So the only I've seen the leak. I don't remember it too well. I just remember Takeda as a playable character because Takeda's my boy in MKX, and then Homelander, Omni Man, and Peacemaker.
Yeah.
Which I am so confused. Why would you have Homelander and Omni Man? I feel like that's the same
I'm
character.
not as familiar with the boys, but yeah, and Omni Man's like, it's like having Goku in a fighting game. It's way too powerful.
Yeah. Although one thing I think that the boys is actually going to be spreading their wings into like video games and whatnot, because at the end of the season 4 trailer for Modern Warfare 2 and Warzone 2, there was like a spray paint graffiti on the side of the wall that said "The Boys," and so me and my friends are thinking that Billy Butcher is gonna be a character that
Isn't
you
that
can like pick.
Carl Urban?
Yeah, which at that point there's gonna be so many C words in a Modern Warfare at this point. Because that's like his only word that he says in The Boys.
Yeah. In other news, Disney, their box office looks terrible this summer. They had Guardians of the Galaxy 3, which may break even. It's trying to get there. Little Mermaid flopped.
Which
Go ahead.
How much does that suck? That like there's so much lost good faith in Disney that an actually good movie is struggling to break even.
Yeah, it's it's frustrating when you see a movie that's like, oh, this movie was great, and then nobody goes and sees it. It's very frustrating.
Mhm.
And then people go see something stupid over and over, you know. But yeah, Disney's in a world of hurt. Indiana Jones, what was the projection I sent you? 60 million.
60 million.
And I mean, you look at the Flash, it's only projected to do 70 million. That's not Disney, but that one you're like, oh yeah, well Ezra Miller has been problematic. And we know they're going to reboot everything anyways. I could see people saying, okay, whatever, you know, for that one. So 70 million, that kind of makes sense. But for Indiana Jones to make 60 million, that's ridiculous. They have really hurt the Disney brand. Um, and Elemental's gonna bomb. I think Haunted Mansion may be the one that might surprise people just because we don't know anything about it yet, and you
Yeah.
know that one could be a sleeper hit. But then Marvels is going to bomb too. If Guardians can't make it, you know Marvels isn't going to make it.
Yeah, plus I mean those trailers are just like trash.
That opening where Kamala Khan is fangirling, it hurts my ears so much. It's like
Yeah.
you open your trailer of that. Why would that make me want to go see this movie?
Yeah. And I like her.
Oh yeah.
So it's I don't know, it's writing is very important. And I think I'm at the point where like is the writing in the like this is barring She-Hulk. Is the writing in the shows better than the movies now? Cuz like WandaVision I think was well written. Loki I think was well written. The dialogue in Winter Soldier was not, and whenever I say the writing, I'm not talking about like the story beats. I'm talking about like the actual dialogue. But like Moon Knight, Hawkeye, like these feel like people instead of just quip machines.
Yeah. I
Oh,
can't really say because I haven't seen Quantum Mania or Black Panther 2. I haven't seen
mm,
them. But yeah, I know that they've gone on record. They've hired a lot of the Rick and Morty writers, and you can tell that there's been a decline
yeah.
since then. Um, so yeah, I'm I'm of two minds. There's part of me that just wants Disney to crash and burn, and there's part of me that's like, can Marvel get their act together during this writer strike and have Feige have one last hurrah before he's gone? You know, I
Does he deserve it though?
well, no, I mean, everybody's that helped him do that are gone. You know, so I don't know how you do that, but I'd like to have again two minds. Part of me is like, I really want a Secret Wars or X Men, Fantastic Four, and it's awesome. But I don't think we're getting that. I think that spoilers for Deadpool 3. Okay, everybody, spoilers. If you don't hear about Deadpool 3, just fast forward 30 seconds. Um, most of the original cast of the X-Men 90s film are going to be in that movie, or the 2000 whenever X-Men came out. So they've got Halle Berry and Jam. What's her name?
Famke Janssen.
Yeah, Famke Janssen and Cyclops. They're all going to be a Deadpool 3. Um,
Which excites me, but that just means that like it's not going to be about the X-Men that we're eventually supposed to get.
but I'm thinking that they could lead this into when we get to Secret Wars and the different universes are crashing into each other. The Foxverse, here comes Deadpool and those X-Men. You know,
You think so?
I think that this is going to be the end of the Fox stories and the MCU stories, and then out of that will be born this new movie universe, and then we really get X-Men introduced after that when they
So
reboot everything.
here's the thing. I actually really like this, which is why I don't think it'll happen. Uh, Because
But
if you think about it, Secret Wars was actually the thing that killed the Ultimate Universe. And if you think about it, the original X-Men movies and the original Avengers movies, they were all based on Ultimate properties.
yeah, I the reason I say that they're waiting to do this is because to introduce it. Why haven't you used X-Men yet if that's not what you're doing? If you got the rights to X-Men, you greenlight that right away and say, "Oh, here, because we've heard from the directors and stuff that yeah, they'll outline plans and stuff, but really there's no master plan that Disney that Feige's following. They
Yeah,
kind of are making up as they get to the movie. They go, okay, what are we gonna do? We kind of set this up. How do we handle this now?
which I respect because, contrary to popular belief, that's how it's always been. It's not like they had some super massive plan from Phase One to get all the way to Infinity War. You know?
Yeah, because you could see where they start going one direction and they rip up those plans. Like Iron Man was supposed to be hunting down the Hulk at the end of Incredible Hulk, and that didn't really happen. Or here's the Infinity Gauntlet, Odin's treasure room. Oh, we're not going to do that. There's just different things they start to set up, and then they rip up those plans.
And then there's the I think the biggest one is at the end of Age of Ultron. Fine, I'll do it myself, and he's already got the stones.
Oh, did he? I don't remember.
I'm pretty sure.
I don't know if I remember that or not. That's if he did, that's a big uh-oh. Yeah. So speaking of bad writing, Chris Hemsworth has come out and bashed Thor: Love and Thunder. And I kind of agree with him because it was really a comedy about cancer, and that's not good. I mean, I guess you could make a comedy about cancer, but it's a weird tonal shift all over for a superhero movie.
Yeah, comedy for about cancer. Like at that point, that's what your movie has to be about. But that movie wasn't about cancer. That movie just had jokes with cancer.
Yeah, with a side of cancer. Yeah.
Yeah, like
Uh,
I'm thinking that I think there was the Big C with I want to say that was Kumail Nanjiani, and then Funny People. I think had Adam Sandler in it. Those movies are about like those people who get cancer and find the funny side.
what's the name of the movie where they're trying to break in to see episode one? Is that Fanboys?
Fanboys, yep.
Yeah, that involved cancer. So it can be a plot point, but cancer comedy is a tricky thing, and so tonight we're here to talk about comedies. You like that segue, Hod?
Oh yeah, I saw what you did. I saw what you did.
Yeah, yeah. So we're going to discuss comedies. Caleb and I have very different tastes when it comes to the movies. Sometimes they cross over, as you saw for our Marvel discussions, but then Caleb will have a hot take like thinking Picard season 1 was better than Picard season 3.
I know. Yeah.
So we don't. One of our rules is we don't poo-poo other people's opinions.
Don't yuck other people's yums.
Yeah. So if someone thinks that The Pest, starring John Leguizamo, is the greatest comedy ever, more power to him. I actually kind of like that movie, actually. But
you are the one who showed me that movie. I forgot about that movie until just now.
But yeah, I mean, there's some movies that are so stupid they're funny, and I think that one is kind of funny.
That was John Leguizamo?
Oh yeah,
jeez,
that is definitely John Leguizamo. They don't let him do comedies anymore after that.
You know what's funny is like at this point, John Leguizamo is like the side character from the John Wick movies, and so that's how I think of him. Is like I think of him as kind of like the funny guy in like serious movies. But being the funny guy in a serious movie is definitely different from being a comedy actor.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the most interesting things about our list is before I made my list, I had to decide what a comedy was.
It's difficult. I think I started with like a list of 30 movies, and I had a really hard time getting it down to 10. Trying to decide what was the best comedy. I think I came up with some like rules, like quotability, rewatchability. Is it a good movie at the end of the day? Um, but yeah, it was very difficult.
Quotability is one that I put. I also put creativity, because I think on the other side of quotability is the movie funny without it having to be just a quote fest, you know?
Yeah, yeah, it's tricky.
Yeah.
Everybody has a different, um, and like I'd watch shows like the AFI's top 100 comedies, and some of the picks I'd agree with, and then sometimes you're like, I guess that's funny, but it doesn't make me laugh out loud. Like Some Like It Hot was like their number one pick, and I've seen Some Like It Hot a few times, and it's got a couple of funny moments, but it's mostly like just what's her name's Jack Lemmon and is it
Marilyn Monroe.
Tony Curtis. I want to say it's mostly just them and drag the whole movie. So it's like it's and there's a funny joke at the end where spoilers for Some Like It Hot. This old man has been hitting on Jack Lemmon the whole movie. He thinks he's a woman and stuff. And the punchline at the end of the movie is he's on a speedboat with her, and they're driving away. He's like, "I'm gonna take you away and marry you." This old man saying, he's like, "I've got news for you. I'm a man." He rips off the wig, and the guy looks at him and goes, "Yeah, nobody's perfect." And the movie is.
That's pretty funny, yeah.
I mean, that's a great punchline, but does that make the whole movie a cop? I don't know. So yeah, but here's our top 10 comedies.
Yeah. You got any honorable mentions?
Do I ever? Here's my some honorable mentions. Top Secret. Have you ever seen Top Secret?
No.
It's from the guys that made like Airplane and all those types of movies.
Okay.
But this is Val Kilmer, and he is a like a 1950s pop singer, but he sings about skeet shooting, which is hilarious. Everybody loves it, and he gets sent. I guess it's 40s because they're like going on a World War II mission, and he has to go in undercover. I think it's very underrated and forgotten. If you like airplane movies, definitely check it out. Some of those jokes in there are so funny. Naked Gun, which I think most people are familiar with. Well, I don't know if modern audiences are, but most people know Naked Gun. The first one's really great. I've seen it so many times. I know he did some terrible things, but O.J. Simpson's still very funny in that movie. What's Up, Tiger Lily? That's a Woody Allen film where he basically took, I think it was a Japanese movie, maybe Chinese. He took some movie and chopped it all up and re-edited it and just redubbed it all and made it into a comedy. Very funny. Zorro the Gay Blade, a movie that has kind of been buried and forgotten. Basically, Zorro gets injured and breaks his leg, so he has to have his gay cousin take his place. It is hilarious.
Uh-huh.
It's like a 70s movie. That's one I used to watch.
81.
Oh, is it 81?
That movie came out in 8. What? You know what that's like? You know what that's like? That's kind of like the pink kryptonite that makes Superman really gay. That was in 2003, which I think is insane.
2003. That's
2003.
pushing it. That's
2003.
I gotta think that's like our. I gotta think of where we were at in America. That's like the 9/11 rah era. Yeah. Interesting. I mean, I get it in the 90s.
That was 5 years before Obama.
There's been quite a cultural shift when it comes to that stuff. in the last 10 years. So yeah, I could see that. But yeah, Zorro the Gay Blade, very funny movie. He starts, Zorro has the classic black outfit. Well, he starts experimenting with other colors. It's very funny. um, let's see, Mallrats. I had to put a Kevin Smith movie on my list of honorable mentions. That's always been my favorite one, although I know it's not like usually that like everybody's favorite critical darling from him, but I would just find that movie very relatable, and I think the jokes are very, very funny in that one.
My personal favorite, and I guess you could put this as one of my honorable mentions, is Clerks 2. I just love how like they go up to the line and then they turn on the turbo and go way past it.
Well, I don't want to make this a R-rated podcast, but there was a joke he wanted to do in Mallrats, and they said, no, you can't do that. And then they did that joke, and there's something about Mary, about her hair. And, And Kevin Smith's like, I told you that was funny, and basically said, you can't tell me no anymore. So that's probably why Clerks 2 is probably like that.
Oh my gosh! Like the was I think it was Wanda. It wasn't Wanda Sykes, but there was like a scene in Clerks where they're discussing in Clerks 2 where they're discussing slurs. It's really funny.
I haven't seen Clerks 2. I've seen Clerks 1, but I haven't. By then I was kind of out of my Kevin Smith phase. So
so essentially Randall is just it was Wanda Sykes. So they're just discussing no, that's not a slur. My grandma used to say it all the time, and she was adorable, and she was very, very understanding. No, your grandma was racist.
That is, I guess you would know. That is something that's very confusing when you're a little kid and you hear people using words and you think, oh, okay, I can call people that name. And then you find, oh no, I should not be calling people that name.
I was having this conversation with my friends earlier today after church. There were some things that Papa Maddox said.
Yeah, I wasn't going to name names, but
R.I.P. and I love him. But
well, I mean, and that's just not on your side of the family; it's my other side of the family too. Where it was such a different era and different words were used, and and you'd be. The family reunion, they'd be saying these jokes. Oh, that's funny. Then you go tell them to your school friends, and their faces just, you see the blood drain out of their face. Like, what did you say?
Have you seen the poster for the sequel to Cocaine Bear?
I have not. I mean, I've seen a lot of parodies, but I don't know if I've seen.
So it's the one about. So this one's a real one. It's the one about the raccoon.
Okay.
I can't even put it on stream. I don't know how they're getting away with it. I'll have to send it to you.
Yeah, you can put it in the private chat or Facebook Messenger or whatever. All right, so let me get through this list real quick, or we'll be here all night. Yeah, Kung Pao Entered a Fist almost made my list. That's a great Steve Odekirk who created Barnyard. I want to say Jimmy Neutron. He did some Nickelodeon shows.
I do love those.
But Kung Pao Entered a Fist, very funny movie. It's a bizarre movie. I have to be in the right mood to watch it. Pure Luck, that is Danny Glover and Martin Short. And they're trying to find a girl with really bad luck. So they hired a guy with really bad luck, Martin Short, to see if he can retrace the steps by accident. I feel like you would just follow him around, will the same things happen to him to happen to her. It's very funny. Ernest Family Album. It's debatable if this is a movie or not, but I watched it all the time as a kid. This is Jim Varney, Ernest P. Worrell, and he is talking about his different family members. It was kind of this is like pre-Ernest Goes to Camp. That early Ernest stuff is very funny. Before it kind of got ran into the ground. So definitely check that one out. You can find that on YouTube, different clips from it. Um, there's one where he's teaching a whole class of fighter pilots about how to kill King Kong. It's really funny. And he's talking about how to shoot the monkey and all this. They're like, what about the girl? He goes, what about the girl? Any of us could kill the girl. Princess Bride it's just a classic. I don't know if it's funny, but I don't know if I don't think of comedy when I think of Princess Bride, you know?
I would, but that honestly, Princess Bride just kind of transcends film genre.
Yeah. Christmas Vacation, we watch several times a year. It gets funnier every time.
Never on Christmas though. It's the weirdest thing.
Yeah. Cousin Eddie's hilarious. The whole movie's just hilarious. All those different family members, very funny.
I think it's my favorite of the vacation movies.
Oh yeah, easily. Three Amigos, another Chevy Chase movie with Martin Short and Steve Martin. It's not like laugh out loud funny, but it's just a fun movie. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles with Steve Martin, John Candy. I think that movie, the pillow scene is just hilarious, and I quote that all the time. Just a great one. Let's see, I got two more. Major Pain, which almost made my list. I was debating back and forth. That movie makes me laugh really, really hard. And then lastly, Hot Shots. Every once in a while, I'll watch something with I'm blanking on his name. Who's the main guy in Hot Shots?
Charlie Sheen.
Charlie Sheen. Every once in a while, I'm like, oh, Charlie Sheen's great. Whatever happened to him? Like, oh yeah, that's right.
Whatever happened to Charlie Sheen? You know what? I think that's the name of his biography in like 20 years.
Yeah. Every once in a while, you're watching Hot Shots or something with him, and you're like, oh, he's great. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. It's like we see OJ and Naked Gun. You're like, oh yeah, OJ. That's or we're not gonna name him, but the guy did the Jello commercials. You're like, oh yeah, he was hilarious. Oh, that's right. All right. What are some of your honorable mentions?
For that, mine's a little bit shorter, but like I said, I'll go with Clerks too. So the other guys, I know that it's one that I made you watch and I reference all the time, but it actually ended up being just an honorable mention. And then Bridesmaids. I love Bridesmaids. Paul Feig is a very interesting guy. His movies can be funny, and then some of them are not as funny. I think Bridesmaids, which is like his first popular one, is the one that I think is consistently like the funniest. And then I think the Pitch Perfect movies are kind of funny too. But already you see the difference in our comedy. Just yeah, I didn't have a whole lot of honorable mentions. Like I said, I just had trouble figuring out what a comedy was.
Well, I think a lot of these movies are based on what you saw while you were younger, or at least for me. So a lot of my movies are older, and your movies tend to be a little bit more modern. So
yeah, I think that my oldest movie is like the 90s, but like even then, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and look up to see how old it's 96. So
and my oldest film is 1933. So yeah.
there's not a movie that is older than me on my list. But to get us started, my number 10, I love The Benchwarmers. Have you ever seen The Benchwarmers?
I don't think I have. Most of your list, I don't think I've seen these movies.
Okay. The Benchwarmers, is a movie. It's in that Happy Madison, and I love Adam Sandler. Just the Adam Sandler movies. I could probably make a top 10 list of Adam Sandler movies because I think they're all hilarious. But
you said all hilarious. There's a lot of stinkers in there, but there are some great ones.
I think that they're all hilarious, but for different reasons. Because some of them are like, "Oh my god, how did this get made? How did they say, yeah, that's good?" I think one of his funniest movies is like that, The Cobbler. It's not a comedy, and I'm like, how did this get made? This is amazing. But the Benchwarmers actually doesn't have Adam Sandler. It actually stars Rob Schneider, David Spade, and John Heder.
And speaking of John Heder, I can't believe I forgot Napoleon Dynamite.
Oh, of course, Napoleon Dynamite. Oh, you know what? It's too late. It's too late.
I had to lock in the list, but I was like, that may have made my top 10.
So here's my thing about Napoleon Dynamite. Napoleon Dynamite's really funny. I actually think that 6-episode cartoon that they had, me and my family, we quote that more often than Napoleon Dynamite the movie.
I'll have to check it out. I have not seen those.
Oh, it's so funny. It's on Hulu, but it's so funny. But anyway, so essentially what the Benchwarmers is about, it's about these three guys who are, they're older, and what they do is they start playing baseball against kids. Oh, that's right. You've never seen this. So they start playing baseball with against kids. And Rob Schneider is the only one who's like really good at baseball. David Spade and John Heder are kind of like, they're not. And so what it is John Lovitz is a rich guy who was like bullied growing up, and he's like, you know what? I love that you guys are putting down the bullies who are picking on my son. I'm gonna finance the Benchwarmers, and you guys are gonna take the entire league. And so it's these three guys go, and it's just they're a baseball team of 3 people against entire teams of children in a baseball league.
I may have to check this out. Okay,
it's amazing. It's amazing. And so the type of nerds that they are. So John Lovitz is it was the bullied nerd who like was a geek and then grew up. So like he's got like a robot butler, and he's got like Star Wars everywhere, and so that was the kind of nerd he is. David Spade plays the nerd who's also the pervert. The modern day audiences would know Howard Wolowitz from Big Bang Theory. Very similar.
Right.
And then John Heder still lives at home with his parents, wears a bicycle helmet all the time, even though he's not on a bicycle. And he's not athletic. He's like, hey, umpire, can you tell him to slow it down so I can hit it? Just stuff like that. Oh, and Nick Swardson plays David Spade's brother, who shows up sometimes, but he hides in a closet because he's agoraphobic and he thinks the sun's a monster.
All right, I'll watch this one.
It's so funny. I also have a quote from every from every movie that like I think embodies the film. So Rob Schneider, they're at Pizza Hut, because when you win your baseball game, you go to Pizza Hut, right? So they're at Pizza Hut, and his wife is pregnant. Rob Schneider is the only one Rob Schneider is like the most well put together one out of all of them. And so he's got a wife and everything, and it turns out she's pregnant. And he shouts out to all the nerds who follow them. He's like, "Hey guys, I'm gonna be a dad," and they're all like, "Yeah!" and then his wife's like, "Wow, they really got going for that." He's like, "You ain't seen nothing yet. Watch this. The reason she's pregnant is because I went all the way with her." Yeah.
I kind of saw the joke coming, but yeah, that's pretty funny.
Oh no, it's so I love the Benchwarmers. It's one that I quote all the time.
So I have a feeling that throughout this live stream, I'm going to be constantly like, "Oh, I forgot that movie." So when you mentioned John Lovitz, I'm like, "Oh, I forgot Rat Race. I forgot it's a bad, bad, bad world. So I'm like, but no, the list is locked. I can't change it. So
So, speaking of lists being locked, it's locked once you say your number 10. So, what is your number 10?
Pee-wee's Big Adventure. This was a movie starring Pee-wee Herman. It was directed by Tim Burton. It was written by Phil Hartman. And when you get all three of them together, you get a incredible movie.
This is one off of your list that I've seen. I love it.
It's very funny. I know sometimes people are like, Pee Wee Herman, I don't get it. Watch this movie. It's it's insanity. Basically, Pee Wee has a bicycle that he loves, and the bully steals the bike, and then Pee Wee freaks out. So the bully gets rid of the bike. He's like, I don't want it. And so Pee Wee sets out on this big adventure across the United States to go find the bicycle.
So, do you want to hear something funny? We whenever my dad was a youth pastor, we actually did a parody of this. I don't remember what, because you know how youth pastors do parodies that will tie into the Bible somehow. So our worship leader, we did the same thing, and we did like, "Where's Eric's guitar? Where's Eric's guitar?" And so this was like across several different weeks, and eventually the answer was Eric's guitar is in the basement of the Alamo.
The movie is so genius. The writing is so good. Phil Hartman was a legend. I was so sad when he died. So my quote for this movie, at the end, they're making a movie of Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and Pee-wee's sort of girlfriend Dottie, who is one of the Power Rangers actually. She's like, "Don't you want to watch the movie, Pee-wee?" He goes, "Watch it. I lived it." And then he just rides off, and it's just great. I love this movie.
Was she one of the Power Rangers?
Did I say Power Rangers? Powerpuff Girls.
Okay, yeah. She's one of the Powerpuff Girls. Yeah, I think she was Tommy Pickles too, right?
Yeah. And she's actually, I think, in another movie on my list, which is weird. So, because she's not like a big star, but it's weird. Okay,
right, yeah. Now I've never seen the sequel, but I think just based off of the name, I think is hilarious. Big Top Pee-wee is just a funny name.
Big Top Pee-wee is weird. It's nowhere near as funny. Because Tim Burton and Phil Hartman are not involved. It's like he has like a talking pig and stuff, and it's strange. And the girl from Hot Shots is in it. It's weird. He did a later movie on Netflix. I can't remember. It's Pee-wee's something adventure. I can't remember. That one's
Pee-wee's Big Holiday.
Was that it? It
Pee-wee's
was like
2016.
Yeah.
Yep.
That one is it's not as good as Big Adventure, but it's a step in the right direction. And it's got what's the guy's name that was playing Deathstroke in
Joe Manganiello.
Yeah, he's in it, and he's like waiting for Pee-wee because they're gonna have a big birthday party or something, and so Pee-wee's trying to get across the country to go see him. So it's similar in tone to Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Not quite as funny, but it's not bad.
That's funny, because I'm a metal fan and I'm a D&D fan, so Joe Manganiello is kind of like the poster child of my fandom. So that's fun. I didn't know he was in
that. Yeah, and he let me see if I can find the picture real quick.
Oh, Judd Apatow produced it. Okay, that's cool. I love Judd Apatow.
Oh, I don't see the picture. There's a picture. Oh, here's one of the pictures. Let's see. Let me put it up on screen. Give me 1 second as I remember how to do this. Opera tab.
Let's present.
Ta-da.
There we go.
Yeah.
That's so fun. I love that.
Yeah, so it's a fun little movie.
You know what's funny is like Joe Manganiello is like way beefier now too. Like COVID was good to him. So like he actually looks kind of scrawny in this picture. That's so funny. Oh, that's great. I love that.
Yeah, so a lot of people don't know that movie exists. It's on
I
Netflix. So yeah, it's a fun one to check out. So cool. All right, what is next on your list?
So like I said, I love Adam Sandler, so we got to go with my boy Happy Gilmore. I love Happy Gilmore. It is a movie that I watched so much growing up, and I think this is probably Adam Sandler's best. It's definitely one of two. If you don't know, his production company is called Happy Madison, which is a reference to his best two. And so Happy Gilmore is about this hockey player who his grandma's his grandma her house is being foreclosed on, and so she's being sent to a nursing home. And so Happy joins this like this golf league so he can like win the prize money and, you know, buy her house and everything. You got people like Christopher McDonald plays Shooter McGavin, and I love Christopher McDonald and like everything he's in because he just plays Shooter McGavin in everything he's in. And you've also got Carl Weathers is in this movie as like Happy's golf coach who has this big fear of alligators because an alligator took his hand. And so my quote for this, and I wanted to give myself one thing. Because my quote, it's very important that I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. So he just got into a fight with Bob Barker because you know, he was it was a celebrity golf tournament, and eventually he just beats the crap out of Bob Barker, and then Happy looks at him and goes, "The price is wrong, bitch." That's my favorite quote. That one, and so fun fact, Ben Stiller's in this movie and he is not credited, and he shows up several times in this movie.
Oh yeah.
Where the old lady says, "My fingers hurt," and then he says, "Well, now your back's gonna hurt because you just pulled landscaping duty." My mom quotes that all the time. Every time we complain about something, she'll say, "Well, now your back's gonna hurt because you just pulled landscaping duty."
Right.
But oh man, I love this. Oh, you know who else is in this movie? Is Jaws from James Bond.
Yes, he is.
And he, "I'll see you in the parking lot, Shooter." He's great.
Shooter McGavin is one of the great villains, the great movie villains. Like if I was making a list of top 10 movie villains, he would definitely be on the list.
He's like, "Oh, you can't survive. I eat pieces of crap like you for breakfast. You eat pieces of crap for breakfast? No."
No.
Oh, he's great. I love it. And then the one guy who's like obsessed with him and like wants to go to Red Lobster with him constantly.
Yeah, Joe Flaherty. He is from SCTV from back in the day. He's great.
Okay, gotcha.
He used to be on the Maniac Mansion TV show.
Okay.
Yes, there was a Maniac Mansion TV show.
I was not aware of that. I'm kids. I wasn't aware of that.
I used to love the Maniac Mansion TV show. It's very bizarre.
Yeah.
Happy Gilmore is a great film. We'll get back to Adam Sandler here in a little bit. So next on my list is The Jerk. This is a Steve Martin classic about a what does he say? Well, how does he describe himself? As a poor black man. It's such a funny movie.
He was a poor black sharecropper's son who never dreamed he was adopted.
Yeah, he doesn't know he's adopted. Whole family's black. He has no clue. He leaves to find his place in the world. All this wacky stuff happens to him. He ends up becoming a millionaire, then losing it all. Just a very funny movie.
I've actually never seen this one.
Oh gosh, I don't want to spoil things then because you need to watch this film.
So just so you know, the creme de la creme of Steve Martin movies for me is was it Cheaper by the Dozen? That's actually what I
think so. I mean that is one of his films.
That's that's because that came out when I was a kid. That was like the first Steve Martin film that I saw.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you need to see The Jerk. It's because he's really stupid. He's not smart. Oh, I could have put Dumb and Dumber on my list. What? Okay. See, every movie I'm gonna say. Oh, I didn't put this on the list.
Well, I forgot about Looney Tunes Back in Action.
Oh, yeah, that's another great Steve Martin movie. But yeah, The Jerk. There's a part where somebody pulls out the phone book and just picks a random person out the phone book. He's like, I'm gonna kill this person. So this guy's trying to shoot him because he picked his name out of the phone book, and he's working at a gas station, and the guy's got like a sniper rifle, and he opens fire and he hits like the can of oil behind him, and he's like, these cans are defective. They're leaking everywhere. And then there's more gunshots. He's like, wait, he hates these cans. He's trying to kill these cans. Just a very funny movie. One of the ones you could quote for days. So for my quote for the movie, he calls his parents all excited. He's like, I'm somebody. I'm in the phone book. I'm in the phone book.
That's funny.
It's just a very funny movie. And fun fact, they made a sequel that nobody knows about for TV starring the magician. No, it wasn't the magician. It was the guy who posed as Zach Morris's dad on an episode of Saved by the Bell, playing the Steve Martin character.
Oh man, you know what's funny? I've been watching. For some reason, I've been watching a lot of Saved by the Bell.
Saved by the Bell is wonderful.
Yeah, and so I actually know who you're talking about this time.
Yeah, and I think it was like a TV movie. It's spelled Jerk 2, like TOO, so the number 2. Yeah, I don't know why you would make a Jerk sequel without Steve Martin, but why would you make sequels to Ace Ventura, Dumb and Dumber, The Mask without Jim Carrey? I don't know, but they've done sequel or prequels to all those. So,
oh man, Son of the Mask, that should have been like my dishonorable mention. But you know what's funny is it's a dishonorable mention, but I saw it so much as a kid because we had it on DVD.
That's like what's that movie? Master of Disguise starring Dana Carvey. Terrible movie. I've seen that so many times. I'm like, why have I seen this so many times?
You know, Dana Carvey finally admitted to a theory that happened so long ago, which was he did indeed see the two towers fall while dressed as the Turtle Man.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he finally confirmed that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
well, I mean, at that point, you're like, you know what? Just release the movie. We're not going to try to make
Yeah.
it funny. We were a lot of people like 9/11's kind of become a joke to a lot of people online. If you lived through it, it was no joke.
Right.
I mean, we thought the world was ending. Yeah. Well, now we've brought the whole live stream down. What's your next one, Caleb? What's your next haha funny comedy?
Oh man. Okay, so I was about to make a joke, but I'm not going to.
Yeah. Let's move on.
But anyway, so moving on from Adam Sandler for a little bit, we're gonna go to another one of my generation's comedy idols, and that is Will Ferrell. I love Anchorman 2. That's right. Anchorman 2, not the first one, the second one. I love the first one, but I think the second one is actually better.
And I've never seen the second one, so
Okay. But you have seen the first one, right?
yes, yeah.
So the second one is about them, the news team, coming back together because they're off, different places. I think my favorite one is a Champ. He starts his own fried chicken restaurant, but they go eat there, and it's quite obvious that they are fried bats. And he's like, well, you know what they say, bats are chicken of the cave. And so they all get recruited to be a part of the world's first 24 hours news cycle, which was a revolutionary dumb idea at the time, which I still think is a dumb idea now, but here we are.
Well, I liked just go on tangent. Headline News when it started had the best model where it was like, here's the news in a 30-minute chunk, and then we're just gonna repeat that all day, just that 30-minute chunk. You could tune in, watch your 30 minutes, and you're out.
Sure.
It made sense, but just trying to talk about different things for 24 hours is stupid.
Yeah. But that's what the movie is about. And then so he actually ends up having a kid with Veronica, but then they get like kind of divorced, and she starts dating a psychologist, like a therapist. And Ron keeps thinking like, what are you doing, reading my mind right now? He's like, no, that's not what a psychologist is. I'm not a telepath. But then the joke at the end of the movie is he actually is a telepath.
Of course.
I think that so what this movie does is it's the classic. It does all the jokes from the first movie, but I think they do them better in this movie because they do the fight scene at the end of the movie with Anchorman 2. But it's not about like the different news stations. It's like, so you get ESPN with it's a Will Smith, and it's a bunch of celebrity cameos. So like Will Smith comes in with his ESPN crew because they're the sports news.
Mm-hmm.
You have I don't remember who comes in, but it's MTV, so it's like pop culture news. And I don't remember. It might be John C. Reilly who comes in with it's Liam Neeson comes in with the History Channel, because the History Channel is news, but much, much later. And John C. Reilly plays the ghost of Stonewall Jackson, and then they move on, and then Will Ferrell was like, wait a second, I think we're moving on too fast. Is that actually the ghost of Stonewall Jackson? So yeah, I actually think this movie is so much better than the first one. James Marsden is in it, who plays the hotshot, good-looking anchor Jack Lime, and Ron starts dating his boss, who's a black woman in the 80s. I'm like, oh wow, what no, the 70s. And so like there are a lot of jokes about that, about how she's like, hey, I know what's happened. And so they're all trying to be hip and now with her, to show that they're to show that they're with the times. And eventually Ron goes with her to meet her family for a dinner. and that is probably one of the most cringe-inducing things I've ever seen. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think of what the line was. I think it's like, which one of you crack whores wants to pass the potato salad? Now, my quote for this, because there is a point where Ron is figure skating, and he actually and he's really good at it, but he misses a jump. I think Jack Lime actually like sabotages him or something. And so he hits the back of his head on the ice, and like his oculus cords are disconnected from his eyes or something, so he is actually blind. And so if you all know about Ron Burgundy, reads everything off of the teleprompter, but if he can't read the teleprompter, can't do the news. And so he goes off and lives in a lighthouse in exile from everyone.
Why is a blind person running a lighthouse?
Yeah. And so as his friends go to meet him, he starts talking about how hard it is to live life as a blind man. Because like there was this at one point, I was halfway through a bottle of fine scotch before I realized that it was a bottle of ketchup. Like, well, wouldn't you have noticed that it was a bottle of ketchup like way before that? I don't know how I can make this more simple. I'm blind. And so that whole scene will be my quote. There's actually a point where he's like, I just got these conch fritters out of the oven. He puts it like checker pieces with cotton swab on it. And then Brick Tamlin, Steve Carell's character, picks it up, and he takes a chunk bite out of the checker. He's like, Ron, I'm gonna need your recipe. So I love Anchorman 2. I love Anchorman 2 more than the first one.
And isn't there a alternate cut that's like a totally different movie or something?
What's that?
Isn't there an alternate cut of the movie that's like a totally different movie of all the deleted scenes? It's like a totally different film.
Oh, you're cutting in and out. Can you hear me fine?
Yeah, I hear you fine. So you can't hear me?
Oh
no. Can you hear me now? Hello? What happened? All right. Well, I'm assuming I'm still on the air. I have not seen Anchorman 2. Let me. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. I don't know because
yeah, I could hear you, but you couldn't hear me. It was weird.
Yeah. Well, and what was weird was I didn't even leave the studio. The stream dropped on me. So weird. I wonder. Yeah.
So my question was, isn't there an alternate cut of Anchorman 2 that's like a totally different film of deleted scenes or something?
Yes, there is. And those are equally as funny. So it's almost like watching a new movie. There's actually a scene where and I can't remember which and that's the issue with this is so Anchorman 2, first of all, ends with him and Veronica getting back together. I think there's a cut where he and Veronica stay apart and he actually stays with his boss. But there's this one scene, and I don't remember what version this is in, but they're in Ron's RV driving to New York City, and they're all reminiscing about old stories, and then Brian Fantana is like, hey, if we're all back here, who's driving? And then Ron says, oh, don't worry, I have it on cruise control.
Right.
And then they're like, hey, Ron, where can I put my bowling ball? Oh, you just put it down there beside my pet scorpion. Hey, who here wants a fresh churro from the frying machine? and then they hit something and the RV starts flipping around, and so they get hit with scorpions, bowling balls, and hot oil.
Of course.
I think that's in like the alternate version, but it's still really funny.
Okay. Yeah, I might have to check this one out. I thought Anchorman was okay. I thought it was kind of overrated, but
I think this one's like so much funnier.
okay. I might have to check it out. So this next movie, I gotta be careful of how I describe it. There's certain words that YouTube just does not like. So, Better Off Dead is a film starring John Cusack, where his girlfriend has dumped him for another guy. And so he decides to self-terminate. I think is the best way of describing it.
Unalive himself.
Unalive himself. Yes, thank you. But then he's debating back and forth about, oh no, life's worth living, and there's a lot of jokes about the mishaps of him trying to do this, but it's also about dealing with breakup and putting your life back together. It's a very weird movie, but it's so funny. This was made by the creator of Eek the Cat, a cartoon that most people have forgotten about now, but just a very funny movie. I'm trying to think of some of the. I don't want to give away because I know a lot of people have not seen this film, but it's got the guy from what's his name, Curtis Armstrong, I think, from Revenge of the Nerds, Booger. He's in it. He's his like a best friend, and yeah, so it's just a delightful film. And I'm trying, like I said, I'm trying to spoil things. Have you ever seen this, Caleb?
No, I here's the thing. I feel like I've heard of this, but I also think this is probably just a common phrase that people use too. So I don't know if I've heard of it or not.
There's there is a he has a neighbor, this really nerdy guy that is played by what is his name, Schneider, the one who did all the iCarly shows, the one that
we can't talk about.
Yeah, that guy. He plays this really geeky guy, and his mom's real like aggressive Italian type of stereotype, and they get an exchange student, and she's like she pretends she hates living there so much, the exchange student, that she pretends that she can't speak English so she doesn't have to deal with them. and so there's a scene where John Cusack's like he's going to hurt himself, and he like puts on all this like he's dressed almost like First Blood, like Sylvester Stallone, like clothes that would be easily burnable or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got like this a bottle of gasoline or something that he's about to pour on himself, and he's like, wait, this is stupid, this is dumb. And his mom looks and goes, oh, the guests are here for dinner. So he goes to the dinner table still dressed like that and sits the bottle on the table, and everybody's just like, oh, okay, whatever. And the Italian mom thinks that that's like, I think, alcohol or something, so she starts drinking the gasoline. And so then she lights the cigarette and she explodes. And so the next day at school, he's like, I'm sorry I blew up your mom, Ricky.
So it's about him breaking up with his girlfriend. Who plays the girlfriend?
I don't know her name, but I think she was in the first Nightmare on Elm Street film, the blonde girl. I can't think of her name.
Oh, I don't know her name either, but that's Tina.
And then Diane Franklin plays the exchange student girl that he kind of falls for later. She played one of the princesses in Bill and Ted. If you saw her, you go, oh yeah, that girl. So yeah. Just a funny.
I'm looking at this movie right now. High school student Lane Meyer's two main interests are skiing and his girlfriend of 6 months. They were only dating for 6 months.
You have to see his room. He's obsessed with her. There's like pictures everywhere. Like the whole wall is just covered in pictures of her.
Okay,
And
so it's not just like life is putting him down, and then this was the straw that broke the camel's back. This is like absurdist. He loves his girlfriend of 6
yes,
months. Okay, gotcha.
yeah, they're high schoolers. This is the end of the world for him. He has lost his girl. And it's so funny. There's a scene where he tries to jump off a bridge and he lands in the back of a garbage truck and he's going by and there's two black guys working on the telephone pole. They look down and go, man, and they see him in the back of the garbage truck. They're like, man, that's a darn shame. Throw away a perfectly good white boy like that.
Oh my god.
It's hilarious.
That's
And there's a running joke about the newspaper boy wanting his money, and he keeps going, "I want my $2. I want my $2." And so you hear a lot of people quote that all the time. They'll say, "I want my $2." That's where that comes from. Is this movie? So I feel like I have to make you watch this movie now at some point.
You know what? After the summer, I think we're at the point where after the summer we should bring back He Made Me Do It.
Yeah.
And so that'll go on the list.
Yeah, it's a classic. So another movie I forgot, Corky Romano. I should buy a boat.
So, did you have a main quote, or was it the garbage can?
That's a great quote, or I want my $2, or where Curtis Armstrong he's storing the snow out the mountain, going, "Do you know what this is? This is pure snow. I could sell this." Amazing film that it deserves to be more popular than it is. And the girl from Pee Wee's Big Adventure has a cameo where she's singing in a band. So the Powerpuff Girls in this one also. Yes,
that's funny.
Yeah,
you know what's funny?
What's that?
So did you ever see? Did you ever watch The Closer whenever it was on?
A little bit here and there.
Okay, because Curtis Armstrong actually towards the end of the show, all of because if you actually look at like The Closer from like the perspective of someone like myself who has a criminal justice degree, there are so many malpractices, and like they are just they do not do the law correct. So there's at a point where there is a
internal investigations, or
no, it's not an internal investigation. It's a class action lawsuit.
Oh, okay.
Against her, and Curtis Armstrong plays the lawyer, and he's kind of the bad guy. And so when I think of him as a very serious actor.
I love Curtis Armstrong. He's great.
But anyway, so next up for me, which this one is going to be difficult to talk about because it's not in our native language, but I love watching it in our native language. That's going to be Kung Fu Hustle. Kung Fu Hustle is a. Let me paint you a picture. The picture is I am 12 or 13 years old. And I was younger than that. I was probably about 10 or 11.
Yeah, I should not have been showing you this film.
Well, so here's the picture. The picture is great grandma has just died. And so we're all hanging out at the at the funeral home all day, and we're all super bored, and you bring out your laptop. And so we're watching and laughing our butts off to Kung Fu Hustle at my great grandma's funeral.
But we were there for like 12 hours. We had nothing to do.
We were there for a long time. I just think it's funny to describe it like that. I think it's also really funny because your wife, my aunt, love her to death. she is so emotional at every funeral I've ever seen her at, and so that's also funny to think about in that image, because like we're just laughing watching Kung Fu Hustle at a funeral, and she's like blubbering and crying.
Yeah.
It's just it was a weird time. But honestly, if this wasn't a good movie, I probably wouldn't have that story to tell. This is an amazing movie. And let me ask you this: do you prefer to watch this in dub or sub?
I saw it subtitled, and I think I've seen it both ways. I like the subtitle version better. Some of the jokes work better subtitled.
So
But I can watch it either way.
I actually prefer the dub because I actually prefer the delivery from the dub better.
Okay.
So for those of you who don't know, Kung Fu Hustle is a movie. I don't even know what this movie is about. Like
I would describe it as a Bruce Lee movie in a Looney Tunes style.
Sure, yeah. Is the main character the guy, or is it the old people? Who is the main character? We spend more time with the old people.
The landlord and his wife.
Yeah, the land.
Yeah, it's weird because I mean I guess Stephen Chow is supposed to be the main character, but it's a hard one to nail down into one thing because this movie's kind of all over the place.
It is. So essentially, it is a kung fu movie about the Axe Gang. They're called the Axe Gang because they love to use axes, and they also love musical dance numbers.
Yes.
And so, why are they going after the landlords? I don't even remember why.
I think he starts it, doesn't he, Stephen Chow? Because he goes in there and says he's part of the Axe Gang, and he fires off the firework thing.
That's right.
Yeah. He pulls everybody into this.
That's right.
Because he's pretending to be a member of the Axe Gang, him and his friend, and then the real Axe Gang shows up, and then the trio starts defending the slums. And for a while, you think the trio are the main characters.
Right. And then it turns out that the landlord and the landlady, turns out that they're martial arts masters who have refused to be martial arts masters. Apparently, this entire apartment complex is full of martial arts masters.
Yes.
And whenever I say martial arts masters, I'm not talking about like this is Dragon Ball Z level fighting.
Yeah.
Like they jump high into the air and do like combo finishers and crap. And so, but the thing is they don't want they swore never to use their martial arts abilities because their son died in a martial arts fight.
Yeah,
and it's, I mean, and then it all comes down to what's the palm technique called? I can't remember.
Oh, shoot.
Is it like the 5-finger Buddhist palm technique?
Something like that. Yeah.
It's something like that. So it all comes down. And then there's like so whenever the Axe Gang is sent off running, then the leader of the Axe Gang decides to send, like, what is he? Is he just a bum?
Yeah, he's
an assassin. Like, he's a legendary assassin. But like,
are you talking about the frog guy?
Yeah.
He's just a killer that is in prison. This deadly killer that was in prison, basically keep everybody safe to put him behind bars. But really, he could escape at any moment he wanted to. He was just bored.
And so he's got like he's horseshoe bald, but also a mullet. He wears a wife beater and shorts with flip flops.
Well, no, slippers, like bunny slippers.
Bunny slippers. Okay, gotcha.
Something like that. Yeah, it's like women's slippers.
Yeah. Like I said, this is a hard one to talk about because it's hard to nail down. So I'll just go ahead into I'll go into my quote, which is from this is from the dub. I don't remember if this is in the sub. but it's whenever Stephen Chow is trying to kill the landlady, and she just says, "Who's throwing handles?"
Yeah, we'll talk about that scene when we talk about this movie again here in a minute. Yeah, that is
Spoilers. Who's throwing handles? But yeah, like you said, we're definitely going to be talking about this movie more. So we'll just cut it off right here. To be continued. What's your next one?
So this is my Adam Sandler film, Billy Madison. This movie's so freaking funny. I know that plot wise, maybe the plot's not as strong as Happy Gilmore, but or like storytelling wise, but I quote this movie constantly from the game show where he's talking about how that's the stupidest answer he's ever heard, and we're all stupid for hearing it, and may God have mercy on your soul. It's so funny. Basically, if you haven't seen it, Adam Sandler is the son of a was he own a chain of hotels, I believe, and Billy is supposed to inherit the chain of hotels, but he never finished high school. So the Weasley second in command, I can't remember his name, the guy from Cabin in the Woods. And,
that's all I know him as. Is if I'm talking about this movie, he's the guy from Cabin in the Woods. If I'm talking about Cabin in the Woods, he's the guy from Billy Madison.
Yeah. He says he wants to be in charge, and so Billy comes with this idea that, hey, I will complete school within, I think, 12 weeks or 24 weeks.
No, it's the butler, I thought.
Oh, that's right, the other guy. Anyhow, Billy's going to finish school in 12 weeks. Like, he'll spend 1 week in each grade, and then he will, if he can prove that he can pass school the right way and not have his dad pay off the teachers, then he will prove that he's worthy enough to inherit the hotel chain. And then through this process, Billy meets Veronica Vaughn. She's like a second grade or third grade teacher.
She is the third grade teacher, which I think if I was in third grade and I was taught by Sonia Blade, I would
if you ask me like who are hot actresses, she's way up on my list. But then she like left the acting business. I think like after I Know What You Did Last Summer, she quit or whatever. So,
which good for, I think, anyone who gets out, like who has a decent run and then gets out, good on them.
Yeah, because Hollywood's a horrible place, but that's a different live stream. But I think this is some of Chris Farley's best jokes, his role as the bus driver, the running joke with the O'Doyles, the bullies. The whole field trip sequence is hilarious.
Yeah, if I could, I actually do have a quote from this movie that I quote all the time, and I love it.
Go ahead. You can provide the quote. Go ahead.
It's so the kid pees his pants, and so to make him feel better, like all the kids are making fun of him, Billy pees his pants.
Well, Billy splashes water on his pants and says he pees.
Oh, is that what it is? Oh,
yeah, right. He did not actually pee his pants.
Okay, gotcha. And so the kids are like, "What?" He's like, "Well, are you kidding? When you're an adult, peeing your pants is the coolest." And then they're all like, "That's awesome." And then off to the side, the old lady says, "If peeing in your pants is cool, then I'm Miles Davis."
Yeah, that's such a great line.
So that one, and then Chris Farley is amazing in this movie. That Veronica Vaughn is one piece of ace.
Me and her got it on. No, you didn't. Well, guy, no, they did. Well, you could have no. Who eats a kid's school lunches?
Oh man, it's just such a good movie.
And then I quote the musical about the clown coming back all the time. Hey kids, it's me. I bet you thought that I was dead. You know, it's
I think every so often I'll just because because one thing that I've always thought was hilarious was his whole except the puppy was a dog, but the industry, that was a revolution. But what I always thought was funny is at the end where he says, "Nib high football rules," and then everybody just starts cheering. And so every so often, I'll just randomly yell "Nib high football rules."
Yeah, I think there's a similar joke in Bill and Ted. I want to say, where one of the kids yells that at the end of his presentation. Whatever their high school was, San Dimas High rules or whatever.
Wild Stallions. Steve Buscemi is great. I am really glad I called that guy.
Whole movie, very funny.
Yeah. For me, I mean, it was a toss-up between Happy Gilmore and Billy Madison. I was going to go with Happy Gilmore, but then as soon as you said Billy Madison, like, I get to talk about both. So,
yeah. All right. What is next on your list?
So now we're getting into the stuff where it's like, is this a comedy? But it is a comedy. Deadpool 2 is in my top 5 favorite superhero movies. And I just love Deadpool 2 in general. I think the entire X-Force portion is so funny. Whenever like they're taken down by high winds. That's amazing. I love that. What was it? Peter says, "I want to go home," and then Deadpool says, "And I want the McRib to be served year round."
The part where it's been a while since I've seen it, but I think Deadpool gets ripped in half and he's trying to regrow and he has like the little baby legs.
He has the little baby legs, yeah.
And is Cable in that scene? They're like, "Oh gosh, what did
that?" Yeah, so they're all in that scene, and so whenever they go to shake hands, he gets up and then Weasel's like, "Oh my god, look at him, he's walking." Oh man, I love this. Another one of my favorites is the fact that Dopinder wants to be a part of the X-Force. He wants to be an assassin and a killer like them. Yeah. He's like, "My body is an instrument of death." Shut up, Dopinder, not now. My quote is going to be actually part of that, which is Dopinder wants to be a part of it. What's your superpower? Courage. That's adorable. I also love that. So, fun fact: most people don't know this. Ryan Reynolds plays Juggernaut in this movie because I believe Juggernaut is actually Ryan Reynolds' favorite comic book character.
Yeah, and it was nice for the most part to get a comic book accurate Juggernaut in this film after he was ruined.
You may say ruined, but I still it's almost at the point where like the meme has taken over. I love that version of Juggernaut in X-Men 3: The Last Stand, but I admit that is not Juggernaut. I just think he's really funny. But I'm the Juggernaut. But yeah, I love Deadpool 2. And Deadpool 2, I mean, like, it's just such a heartwarming family movie too. Like,
oh sure.
It's great. I love the scene where he shows up at the X Mansion and does the say anything with his phone. And then oh my gosh, Kimiko, hi Kimiko, I love you.
Yeah, the running joke. Yeah.
Oh man, that's
my only complaint about Deadpool 2, and it's major spoilers, is I think it's funnier if Vanessa is still dead at the end. If he if he ran out of juice on the time machine, he's like, "Oh, that was so much fun. I forgot to bring Vanessa back." If that had been the end scene, I think that's a way funnier ending. that makes the
agree.
movie better.
Well, and like I was telling you earlier, off stream. I don't know if anyone else read it like this, but I always read Vanessa being their interpretation of Lady Death. You know, like she's dead, he loves her, but he can't be with her, kind of like Lady Death. That's the way I've always read it. I don't know.
I think Deadpool is more interesting as your Charlie Brown type character where nothing goes right no matter how hard he tries.
Yeah.
So I think it's better if she is dead. I just think the character is more interesting. So anyhow, that's a debate for another day.
I also think that it's funny whenever he's going back in time and he decides it's not the Green Lantern one, it's not the Deadpool one, it's the one with the baby.
Was that a deleted scene or was that in the movie? I can't remember.
I believe that was the super duper cut, and that's the one that I've seen more, and I think the super duper cut is the way to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is in the super duper cut, and it's really funny because he's like walking around the Austrian nursery, and he's like, "Oh man, can I do this? Can I do this? I don't." Whoo. And he's just contemplating doing this.
Yeah, he couldn't do it, but Phantom X could have. But that's a reference for something else. So.
But yeah, I love Deadpool 2. I mean, I think Brad Pitt gives the performance of his life in this movie.
Yeah. So another movie I forgot, which a lot of people, but a lot of people fight me on this one. I think Dinner for Schmucks is a wonderful comedy.
I love that.
A lot of people hate it, but I think it's hilarious.
All right. Waiting is a great movie too.
I haven't seen that one.
Waiting is like The Office, but for people who work in the food service industry.
Gotcha.
It's like Office Space for that. Office Space. That's another.
Oh, how did we? Oh, an Idiocracy. Okay, we suck. Okay, good. The list is locked. Let's move on to the next one.
Your next one.
Airplane. I kind of have to put the Granddaddy of spoof movies on here. It's not one I rewatch that often, but when I do, I still crack up laughing. This is a parody of all the airplane disaster films that were coming out in the 70s. And it kind of gave birth to the genre that spawned movies like Hot Shots or Naked Gun or, all those parody films or Scary Movie or, whatever. Mm. What most people don't know is this is based on an actual old film from the 30s, I want to say, or 40s. They actually bought the rights to it, and so I think it's called like 0 Hour or something. And it's if you watch it online, like scene for scenes, they're parodying this. Like you can put both scenes up at the same time, and they're literally parodying every scene.
That's funny.
The studio actually bought the rights to that movie, so they could do that and not get sued for like copyright infringement or plagiarism.
I love the hustle.
Yeah, it's a funny movie. It's the first time we see Leslie Nielsen in a comedy role because for years he played serious characters. And just the number of quotable jokes in this movie, the number of jokes, it's just hilarious. Having Kareem Abdul-Jabbar as one of the pilots it's still funny.
Excuse me, sir. I speak a little jive.
Exactly. Yeah, Barbara Billingsley, who was the mom on Leave It to Beaver, says that she speaks jive. That's so funny.
And then it turns out that she does.
Yeah, she speaks it very well, fluently. The whole running gag about the drinking problem. Every time he pulls up something to drink, he splashes it all over his face. Very funny. And I think the control tower scenes are funnier than the airplane scenes. Where he's like, here's my quote. I quit. I picked the wrong week to stop sniffing glue. If I did put Airplane on this list, Hot Shots would have made the list, or I almost put Naked Gun on the list. These types of movies, these type of movies are either great or they're terrible. Airplane 2 is terrible. I think Naked Gun 1 is great, and there's like diminishing returns after that.
Yeah.
Although I think Hot Shots 1 and 2 are both pretty funny. But then you'll have some like Dracula Dead and Loving It. I didn't put Young Frankenstein on my list. Okay.
So Young Frankenstein was a contender, but it didn't end up making it for me. Now I will go on record saying that I do think that Young Frankenstein is actually Mel Brooks' best.
Oh yeah, yeah. I could do a whole show about Gene Wilder. He's amazing. So, yeah, we're already almost at the 2 hour mark. So I'm gonna go ahead and, if you don't know about Airplane, go check it out. Let's move on to your next pick, though.
So this next pick, I think, is a movie that came out too soon. Josie and the Pussycats. A lot of people hate this movie, and I understand why. And I don't want to be. I hate being the person that's like, oh well, you just don't understand it. But I genuinely think that this is one of the most misunderstood movies of all time. This is a movie that is really funny if you are familiar with the inner workings of the music industry. And back in 2000, people were not familiar with the music industry, and so they didn't find this funny. But now that we know a lot about the inner workings of the music industry, this movie is hilarious. This is a movie that stars Rosario Dawson, Tara Reid, Rachel Lee Cook, and Alan Cumming. And so it's about Josie and the Pussycats becoming they are a punk rock band, which this movie actually probably is what cemented my love for both punk rock and boy band music. Because this parody is what was big at the time. Josie and the Pussycats are obviously, bands like Blink-182 and Sum 41. Du Jour are bands obviously like NSYNC and Backstreet Boys. And so they're really parodying the music industry and how the music industry kind of controls our lives, because everyone loves music. And so the government uses music to put in subliminal messages to get you to buy things. And it's really weird. It's such a weird movie to talk about. It's one of those that's like, you got to know about the industry and then you just got to watch it. There's a friend that I have who is I played in his band for a little bit. And so I'm going to show him this movie because I think he would appreciate it a lot. But this movie is hilarious because it's got so many like obvious product placements, like the scene from Wayne's World, which also honorable mention.
Yeah.
Where I will bow to no sponsor. It's that for the whole movie, and it's really funny because that's actually what the movie's about. It's about how like sponsorships like destroy the world. If anyone is familiar with Repeat Stuff by Bo Burnham, it's kind of like this movie, because it's about how the industry makes you feel horrible, but then you go to the industry because they make you feel good, and then it makes you feel horrible again, and then go back to the industry, and it's a circle. And this is also a really funny movie amidst all of that. I think my favorite quote, and it's also a running gag, is the boy band Du Jour. Du jour, if you don't know, is I believe it's French for of the day.
So like you'd have soup du jour, which is soup of the day, but they don't know what du jour means, and so they keep like making stuff up. They're like, man, du jour means family. Du jour means friendship. Just stuff like that. And then whenever they're gonna crash, whenever their plane's about to crash, they're like, du jour means seat belts. Du jour means crash positions. And the members of du jour, there's the guy from Franklin and Bash that's not Zach Morris, the
Right.
other guy. Donald Faison, Turk from Scrubs, Seth Green, and an unknown who is actually I think it's funny because it's the unknown who is the leader of the band.
Mhm.
And so they actually come back later because the whole point of their plane crash is whenever bands find out that the government is using their whenever the bands figure out that the government is using their music to send subliminal messages, they kill them in plane crashes. And it's like, well, why do you think so many bands die in plane crashes? It's because they figure out that their music is being used for subliminal messages. Well, it turns out that they survived their plane crash. And so at the end of the movie, they come in and try to save the day, but they're all beat up and they've got like full body casts. And they're like, I thought you guys died. Well, what happened? And then the leader of the band says, well, we landed the plane just fine. But unfortunately, we landed in the parking lot of a Metallica concert. They all beat the crap out of us. And they're like, well, you look fine. You don't look as bad as the other guys. And he says, and I thank God every day that I knew the words to Enter Sandman. That'll be my quote, is the Enter Sandman. But I just love this movie, and I love the music. This is almost a musical. I love the music in this movie. It's so fun. If you haven't listened to the soundtrack, it's on Spotify. Josie and the Pussycats, one of my favorite comedies.
So it is storming here. So if I lose power and I just disappear, I'll text you. So
you're cutting in and out again.
Okay, is it any better now? Can you hear me? Awesome. All right. Hold on. How about now? Can you hear me now? Caleb? How many Calebs can I have on stream?
I don't know.
Let me remove the other Caleb. Okay.
That is so weird. Okay. I have no idea how this...
All right. Like I was saying, it's storming here. If I cut out, might be because I lost power. I don't know. So we're going to kind of... I don't want to zoom through these, but we're going to go through these a little quick. Sure. Duck Soup is a Marx Brothers classic. Groucho Marx, Harpo, and Chico, and all those guys. If you like Animaniacs, you should check out this film. Animaniacs basically rips off the Marx Brothers quite a bit. It is black and white, but black and white movies are cool. So it's the jokes that Groucho is saying. He's talking so fast. There are so many funny jokes, so many funny things he's saying that if you're not listening, it's going to fly right over your head.
I love those because that it warrants multiple viewings.
There are jokes in this movie. You're like, how did they get away with that in the 30s?
Which is a weird thing to say because, like, you would think that the 30s was not an enlightened time, so you could get away with anything.
Well, you think that I think this is before the movie rating system come into play. So, there is this is the movie that invented the mirror gag that you see a lot in Looney Tunes and other movies, where the guy thinks he's walking past a mirror and he's really walking past another person, and they have to mimic each other's movements and stuff. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the first movie to do that. There's a very funny scene with with Harpo and a guy selling peanuts, where they keep stealing his hat over and over. It's you just have to see it. Harpo's amazing. If you don't know who Harpo is, he's basically the wacko of the group. He doesn't talk, but he has a horn that he honks all the time. And basically what happens is Groucho becomes the new leader of Fredonia, I think is what they're called. And there's actually an episode of Animaniacs that basically spoofs this movie. But he declares war on the neighboring country. And so they're, the whole movie's about them going to war. And so there's a scene where Harpo is riding through the town like Paul Revere. And he's ringing the bell, and then he sees like a sexy lady up at the balcony like waving at him, and so he stops the horse. So him and the horse go into the building, and then it cuts to the scene. In old movies how they cut to the person smoking cigarettes. So it cuts to her. The camera pans over, there's him. The camera pans over, there's the horse in bed with him. 1930s. So funny.
Yeah, I see what you mean now.
It's hilarious. And they sing a song about how all God's children have guns and all this stuff.
So what you're saying is this is kind of like if Matt and Trey from South Park did not like get their inspiration from stuff like this,
I mean, this is like the Marx Brothers are kind of the grandfather of all that crude comedy. This is where it all starts back in the 30s. It's incredible.
I mean that just sounds like Book of Mormon in a way,
There, I love old comedy like Laurel and Hardy and Abbott and Costello, but I think Marx Brothers, they're like Looney Tunes. They were the ones pushing the envelope back then about what you could get away with. So Duck Soup, it's not a long movie. Check it out. It's hilarious. All right. So what's next on your list?
So next up is a movie that I thought would have been I'm cutting out, aren't I?
You sound fine on my end. It's weird. I hear everything you're saying, and then you'll just like lose connection, and also you reappear. And you probably can't hear me. Very strange. So Superbad, I have never seen Superbad. I know people quote it all the time with the I guess the guy's name is McLovins. His fake ID. I don't know. A lot of these movies came out in when I had my children were very young, so a lot of these R-rated comedies I just did not get to see. So this is one of those that I missed out on. Are you back, Caleb? Are you still? Caleb was silent again. So let me. Okay, there he goes. He's hopping out of the stream. He'll be back. I'm not sure what's going on with the connection tonight, but we're having some technical difficulties. Also, we've gone 2 hours. We usually don't go this long, so I don't know if StreamYards is having some hiccups here. So I tell you what, while we're waiting for him to come back, I'll go ahead and switch to not my next movie, and then we'll let Caleb talk about Superbad when he gets back. Oh wait, he's back. Are you back?
Yeah, I think I figured out the problem, so we shouldn't have any other issues.
Okay. So I was just telling the audience, I have not seen Superbad. It came out when my children were young, and I just was not watching a lot of R-rated films.
Yeah.
So
Superbad is a movie that came out at a point where I shouldn't have been watching it, but it was kind of like taboo to be watching it. Like I was at that right age. This is where I really first saw Jonah Hill and Michael Cera
and they're just brilliant in this movie. They're so funny together, and and they're both such better actors now that I'd love to get them back together.
Right.
But essentially, this movie is kind of it's the last great American Pie movie, if I could say it like that, which is they're seniors and they are looking to lose their virginity to these two specific girls at a party, and so they get an invitation to that party by saying that their friend Fogel has a fake ID, and so they're going to bring a bunch of alcohol to this party, and so that's kind of the whole point is them trying to get alcohol to get to this party so they can impress these girls and then do the deed. Emma Stone plays the one that Jonah Hill likes. This is probably one of her first roles. I would say probably one of her first roles. Now, the scene that everybody knows about is actually the scene with Fogel, where he shows them his fake ID.
And I'd mentioned that while you were lost connection.
Yeah. Fogel shows them the fake ID, and it turns out that whenever you go down there, you can choose whatever name you want. And so he lands on McLovin. And Fogel says, yeah, it was between that and Muhammad. Why would it be between that and Muhammad? And Michael Cera is like, Fogel, do you know anyone named Muhammad? And he's like, do you know anyone named McLovin? Jonah Hill's like, no, that's why you picked a dumb name.
It sounds like a little bit like Can't Hardly Wait, another great comedy I probably should have
kind of
put on here.
But just the whole McLovin scene. There's a scene with tiramisu in cooking class that's hilarious. I mean, this movie is just so funny. And then McLovin, because at that point he's not Fogel, he is McLovin. He goes off. He has his own story because they get separated, and then Seth Rogen and Bill Hader play cops that pick him up, and they're just like the worst cops ever, and they're so funny. And there are a lot of quotes that I can't say.
Right.
But no, they're just so funny. And eventually it turns out that they know that he's not actually a 25-year-old organ owner named McLovin. They know he's just a kid, but they wanted to be cool in front of him. And so eventually, to get rid of all the evidence of everything they've done that night, the cops and McLovin light the police car on fire and then shoot at it. And it's really funny. I would say the best line is probably yeah, it was between that and Muhammad. Just the whole McLovin scene, it's legendary for a reason. And it's not just that one scene. The whole movie's great. And when you get down to it, it's also a great movie about friendship because these two friends will go off to college and probably never see each other again. And if they do, they won't be as close as they are now.
Yep.
So it's and there's actually a melancholy ending where they're at the mall, and they run into the two girls from last night. They don't eventually they don't end up doing the deed with either of them. But then, the girl that that Michael Cera likes and the girl that Jonah Hill likes, they're like, hey, do you want to, come help me with this? And then she's like, do you want to come help me with this? And so they go their separate ways finally with the girls that they like. But even then, they kind of look back at each other, like all sad, like, oh man, that's my best friend. And so it's kind of funny, but it's also kind of sad.
there's a thing that most people go to when they get married or whatever. You don't hang out with those same friends you hung out with, and
Yeah.
it's it's something that most people go through. I mean, there are exceptions to that rule, but it's generally something that happens. So, all right, let's move on to our next film because this is gonna be a 4-hour podcast if we don't.
Yep.
Everything Everywhere All at Once. Did you ever see this movie, Caleb?
No.
Gosh, Caleb. This movie is so inventive and creative, has a lot of heart, but I laugh so hard at this movie repeatedly. There's so much silly, zany little jokes everywhere. This is about Michelle Yeoh's character Evelyn, who is she owns a laundromat and she's getting audited by the IRS. And during the audit, a alternate version of her husband from a different dimension shows up and says, "You have to save the world," or the multiverse actually. And then all heck breaks loose. And I'll leave it at that.
Is that Short Round?
Yes, Short Round is her husband. Yes. There's one the reality where all this started from. The Evelyn of that world is dead. So there is a scene where all the Evelyns are screaming. And it's happening real fast, like just cut all these different Evelyns from different universes screaming, and then it just cuts to an urn screaming. I laugh so hard because she's dead in that world.
That's really funny.
And it's quick. It's like a 2-second shot. So if you're not paying attention, you'll miss it. But if you see it, it's freaking hilarious.
Oh, I love those. My next two movies, actually my last 3 movies, my top 3, it's full of that comedy. I love that comedy.
And I know that recency bias is a thing, and I need to see this movie again. But this may be one of my favorite movies ever made.
Oh yeah, no, don't give in to recency bias. My number 1 is also my number 1 movie of all time, and it's also a more recent movie.
Yeah, this movie's great. There are some crude jokes in it that some people be like, "Oh my gosh," So just a heads up. There are a couple of crude things in there, but
right. If Superbad and
Superbad,
2,
it's nowhere near as bad as those.
If Everything Everywhere All at Once is too crude,
just for movies I recommend, I usually don't go the crude route. So you just a heads up, So, but yeah, this movie's fantastic. There's Jamie Lee Curtis is the IRS agent, and she always has a brace on her hand in every scene. So then you cut to the reality where they have hot dog fingers and they do everything with their feet, and she has a hand brace on her foot. At that reality, so she's playing the piano with her feet, and she has the little brace on her foot, and I was just dying laughing. It's a bizarre movie, but I adore it. It's great. If I had to pick a quote, I mean, there's the quote about laundry that everybody quotes. Probably no, I don't want to spoil those jokes. Sometimes just be a rock. There's my quote. If you see the movie, you'll know what that is. And I have lost Caleb again. It looks like Caleb has disconnected. Are you back?
Yeah, I think the universe is telling us we should never go this long. I don't know what's happening. It's insane.
It's weird that anyhow.
Because you can hear me fine, right?
Yeah, you have not cut out at all.
That is so weird. And then I'm the one that's disconnecting. Anyway, so did you say your piece on?
Yeah, I think so. I think the audience heard. Check out this movie. It was deserved all the Oscars it won. It deserved more Oscars than it won. Say that.
Yeah, gotcha. So my favorite director of all time is actually Edgar Wright. And so my next 2, starting with Scott Pilgrim versus the World. I love Edgar Wright's style. This movie is so fun. I'd never heard of this. It was actually you who introduced me to this. We didn't see it together. I think we were going to, but we didn't end up seeing it together. But you're the one who told me about it and said that I would love this. I love this movie. This was one of those, like Deadpool 2, where I was like, man, is this really a comedy? And then my dad said, there's a P meter in this movie. It's a comedy. And I'm like, yeah, you got me. You got me. So, I mean, I just love this movie. It's another Michael Cera, who I love. I love Arrested Development. I love Juno, so I just love Michael Cera.
Yeah.
Mary Elizabeth Winstead is fantastic in this movie. I think this is Brandon Routh's best role.
Sure.
If I had to go with a quote from this movie, it's "Tell it to the cleaning lady on Monday, because you'll be dust by Monday." And the cleaning lady, she cleans up dust. She dusts. So what's on Monday? Well, it's Friday now, and she has the weekends off, so Monday, right? I also think that this is Brie Larson's one of Brie Larson's best. It's funny. It's there are some people who like some celebrities that I don't like to necessarily badmouth, especially if they didn't really do anything wrong. Which Brie Larson hasn't really done anything wrong. It's just she's definitely changed over the years, and so like it's hard to believe that her as Rachel in Community and her as Envy in Scott Pilgrim vs. World, this is the same person who bombs Captain Marvel interviews. It's so weird.
Yeah. One thing about this movie is it's based on the comic book manga, and it follows it pretty faithfully. But they started making this movie before the final volume was out, so that ends very differently. Well, similar but differently.
No, the funny thing, because so they actually, I think they start making this movie around the time of Volume 3, which is why it's very faithful up to Todd, and then it kind of diverges. But the cool thing is, the best way to read the books is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Watch the movie 6, because the 6th book assumes you also saw the movie.
Okay.
It's so weird.
I think my gripe with the film is I think it ends wrong. I think he should end up with knives at the end, because I feel like they were a better team.
Yeah, so here's the thing. It's a little weird because she's 17.
Yeah.
So there's that too. But no, I definitely they filmed that. That's the alternate ending.
Mm-hmm.
What I think is hilarious is the evil version of Scott, Nega Scott, is actually a really cool guy, because Scott is a horrible person.
True. Yeah. So maybe he deserves it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Fine.
No. Scott is a horrible person in this movie. But it's just so funny. I think I don't see Kieran Culkin in enough stuff. Wallace Wells is a gem in this movie. This movie is just so much fun. So many gaming references. Another quote that I love is whenever Knives sits down with young Neil, and she's like, he plays bass, she plays drums. So what do you play? Oh man, Zelda, Tetris. That's kind of a big question. But yeah, I love Scott Pilgrim. You know what? This is actually where I believe it's Jason Schwartzman actually gets his start as a great comedic villain. For those of you who don't know, he is the Spot in Across the Spider-Verse. So if you like the Spot in Across the Spider-Verse, check out this movie. Jason Schwartzman plays Gideon Graves.
Nice.
But anyway, I think it's time to go back to a movie that we were talking about.
Yeah, so that was your number 3. My number 3 is Kung Fu Hustle. We won't talk too much about it because we talked about it earlier, but this movie is kind of everything. It's an action movie. It's a love story. There's a lot going on. Martial arts film. I think. Go ahead.
I did just think about. Have you ever seen? I have the steelbook for this. Have you seen that?
You've showed it to me, the case.
Yeah. It's the pink steelbook with the broken lollipop.
Yeah. I have tried to get my wife to watch this movie several times. She won't watch it, and I keep going, "You'll love this movie," but maybe one day. She doesn't like things that are subtitled, so
you can show her the dub. Like I said, I think the dub is plenty funny.
Yeah, I think we've tried to stream it a couple of times, and we had trouble getting the language settings right. So,
Gotcha.
anyhow, I would like to point out one of my favorite scenes is when Stephen Chow is trying to act like he's part of the Axe Gang, and he's trying to pick a fight with everybody in the crowd. He's like, "You little kid, you the glasses." And the guy stands up. He's huge, and he's like, "What about
you?
Not you, not you." And he picks the little kid. The little kid stands up. He's huge, like the whole kid. He's
the
like,
little kid is huge. It's hilarious. Like he's like super buff.
What are y'all trying to pull a prank on me? No, not him. You know,
are none of you worthy to fight me?
It's just the whole movie. It's just wonderful.
I think one of my favorite visual gags, and it's hard to describe how visual gags are funny, but it's whenever Stephen Chow, it's the Who's Throwing Handles scene where he's got all the knives in him, and his friend is like looking at him. He pulls it out. He's like, "Ow!" He's like, "Oh, sorry," and then he puts it back in.
That scene may be one of the funniest scenes. Like if I was making a top 10 funny scenes in movies, that's way up there.
It's definitely up there. I love it.
Yeah. All right. What's next on your list?
My next up on my list is my favorite director's best movie, Hot Fuzz. I love Hot Fuzz. So this is Edgar Wright with working with Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, classic trio. And so essentially, Hot Fuzz is about Nicholas Angel, who is a hotshot cop in London, who is so good that he's making the rest of the department look bad. And so they send him away to this nowhere country town, just so that way they don't have to deal with him anymore. And so one of the funniest gags that happens throughout the movie is this is one of the most accurate depictions of police work, because there's no action in this movie for the longest time until the very end. So there's no action in this movie, but they still have like the quick cut, rock and roll action scenes, but it's whenever they're doing paperwork. And that's just really funny.
Yeah, it's a perfect town that keeps having grisly accidents.
Yes, and it's painfully obvious that they're not accidents,
Right.
But it's like, oh man, there's so many accidents. I think one of my favorite quotes is whenever they're all at the bar and Nicholas is talking to Andy, and Andy has this really big bushy mustache, and he drinks his beer and then it kind of leaves a little bit on his lip, and then Nicholas says, "Hey, you've got a mustache." He's like, "I know." Another one of my favorites is whenever Nicholas is finally going to go out drinking with Danny, and Nicholas is like, "What's your wine selection?" And the guy says, "We have red and white." That's just really funny. That's only funny if you're a wine snob, but it's just really funny. No, this is just such a funny movie. Looney Tunes Back in Action has Timothy Dalton, and he's hilarious. Timothy Dalton is in this movie, and he is so funny because he does not hide that he is the killer. He doesn't even try to hide it. So I think my favorite scene, and this would probably, if we're talking about, top 10 funniest scenes, I think this movie would actually have the funniest scene for me. It's whenever they're invited to the play
and it's the Romeo and Juliet, and they do the death scene followed by love me, say that you love me. And just the look on Nicholas's face whenever he's like, what am I watching right now? It's so funny. Now this is one that is hard to get people to watch because this is a British movie, and it is a very British movie. And British comedy is really hard for some people to get, and I understand.
And it takes a little while for stuff to start happening.
Yeah, because it's just a bunch of accidents.
Yeah, it's a slow burn that pays off.
But it's so funny. I love all three movies in this. It's the Three Flavors Cornetto trilogy, and so that's Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and The World's End. This one is actually vanilla. So Shaun of the Dead is strawberry. This is vanilla. And then The World's End is mint chocolate chip. For those of you who don't know, Cornetto is an ice cream brand. And they get Cornetto in every movie. And so every time they go to the shop, they get ice cream here. But yeah, I love Hot Fuzz. It's one of my favorites. In fact, this might be one that I go watch after we're done here.
Awesome.
But yeah. Now, next up, the number 2 on your list, I am actually not familiar with this franchise at all.
What? All right. Next on my list is Addams Family Values. One of the rare times that the sequel is 100 times better than the first movie. This is, of course, based on the classic comic strip and TV show, The Addams Family, the kooky family of Gomez and Morticia and their wacky family. This movie is about them introducing a new baby to their family named Hubert. And the new kids, they hate the baby. They're constantly trying to kill the baby. It's Addams Family. It's dark, and the parents think that's normal behavior. All the kids are just playing. They're like got the little baby dressed up like Marie Antoinette, taking him to the guillotine to cut off his head and all this stuff. So Joan Cusack is in the film playing a Black Widow who she finds millionaires and then marries them and kills them, takes their money. So Uncle Fester is very wealthy, so she's going to swoop in as the babysitter and marry Uncle Fester for his money. And the kids are onto her right away, or at least Wednesday is Christina Ricci. So to get them out of the way, she sends them to summer camp. And summer camp scenes are some of the funniest scenes I've ever seen. They are hilarious. Highly recommend this movie. The jokes are hitting so fast, like every 10 seconds there's a joke. And so even if one misses, the next 5 are gonna hit. It's just bam, 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 bam. And it's just so funny. Christina Ricci, this is one of her best roles, and this is why there's a Wednesday show on Netflix right now, because people love this film. It's just amazing. And this is one of Raul Julia's last films before Street Fighter, where he passed away from, I think it was stomach cancer.
It was something like that, yeah.
But he's fantastic in this film. Everybody's great in this movie.
And I also love the fact that, you speaking of Raul Julia and Street Fighter, that we now, as a community, we have learned to appreciate that the Street Fighter movie because of how over the top and ridiculous it is. So we get to enjoy it for the reason that he did that movie was for his kids.
Yeah, I mean, Raul was a great guy, and he died way too soon.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this movie, I maybe get the scenes mixed up, but there's a scene where they get in trouble at the summer camp, and they're upset because they don't smile, so they put them in the happiness hut to watch like to watch like Sound of Music and Michael Jackson and all this stuff. They're like, He's just a child. What are you doing to him? All that stuff. It is so funny. If you've not seen this movie, I mean, I guess watch the first one. The first one's all right. It's it's got its moments, but the second one so funny, and it's number 2 on my list. So I mean, it's not one that people first jumps to their mind. They think of great comedies, but this movie is so funny. All the stuff with John Cusack is just hilarious. Just a great little film. What is next on your list? What is your number 1?
First of all, speaking of Joan Cusack, I gotta throw in another one. I love School of Rock. I love Jack Black. Anyway, my number one is actually my favorite movie of all time. And that is a movie, and I had trouble because I'm like, is this a comedy? And I think the problem is like comedy kind of has like this negative connotation to it, like it's lesser because it's a comedy. But I don't think that's the case. So I love The Nice Guys. The Nice Guys is a film starring Ryan Gosling and Russell Crowe. And so they are investigating. So if essentially they're both working on 2 different cases, and eventually they converge because one is trying to look for this girl, the other one's trying to protect this girl, and then it ends up connecting to the murder of a adult film actress. Because this takes place in LA in the 70s, so adult films are a very hot commodity at this point. And it turns out that it's this big conspiracy, and it goes all the way to the top, But this movie is so funny. Russell Crowe and Ryan Gosling are brilliant in this movie. Angry Rice, I believe is how you pronounce her name. If you don't know her, she plays the Betty Brant in the new Spider-Man movies. In Far From Home, she was Ned's girlfriend. So she plays Ryan Gosling's 12-year-old daughter, and she is just as hip and smart, and she's like really street smart. And so she's like very important to solving the case. And it's just so funny because these guys are kind of competent, but not exactly. They have what I call luck. They have both good luck and they have bad luck. And that's where really a lot of the comedy comes in. And Ryan Gosling's character is not at all smart. And so my quote for this movie is going to be, someone's like, "Hey, man, I was just following orders." And then Ryan Gosling says, "Yeah, well, you know who else was just following orders? Adolf Hitler."
That's a good line.
Yeah. So I'm going to refrain from talking about this too much, because if we do bring back He Made Me Do It, this will definitely be one of the things that I make you watch.
Okay.
It is a mystery. If you like Lethal Weapon, this is Shane Black. He directed.
I've never seen
Kiss
Lethal
Bang.
Weapon.
Oh, gotcha. But he directed Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. He directed Iron Man 3. He wrote the Lethal Weapon movies. This is his. I think this is his best movie. This is my favorite movie of all time. And I mean, this movie and Blade Runner 2049 are what made Ryan Gosling my favorite actor. I cannot wait for Barbie. The more he talks about Ken, the more I want to see it. I am just so excited for Barbie because of Ryan Gosling. So I'm not going to talk too much about The Nice Guys because it is a mystery. I want people to experience it. Essentially, my story with this movie is I rented this movie from the Redbox at the same time that because it was like a buy one or a rent one get rent one half off, and so I was renting this for my parents, renting a movie for my parents, and so then I decided to rent this movie because I heard some really good things about it. I get home, I watch it. It's phenomenal. I watch it again right after that. I just press replay because I wanted to watch it again. I love this movie so much. I've seen it so many times, and I notice things. The more I watch it, I notice it. I've seen this movie so many times, and I notice something new every time.
Mm-hmm.
I love The Nice Guys. So yeah, like I said, I'm not going to talk too much about it because I definitely want people to experience it, and I don't want to spoil anything for you because I will definitely make you watch this. So, what is your number one?
Just real quick, I get The Nice Guys mixed up with The Other Guys, and they're a comedy you should all check out. So,
yes, exactly. Very kind of similar movies, but because they're buddy cop comedies.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do love The Other Guys.
My number one is Monty Python: The Holy Grail. I was watching like watching some of the YouTube reactions. I was watching somebody react to this film last night or night before, and I'm sitting there still cracking up. I've seen this movie 1,000 times. It's still funny to me. I first saw this movie when I was probably like 10, back when, before we had cable, you'd have the local channels and they would just show a random movie in the afternoon and you would just watch it like on Saturday afternoon or Sunday. They would just, Channel 10 presents blah blah blah. And so this movie was on, and I was like, what in the world am I watching? It is so bizarre and crazy and insane. And I feel like a lot of the stuff has been memed to death, but if you know nothing about this movie, just go into it completely blind. It's much more fun that way.
And that's the thing. This movie has been memed to death. So this is one of those movies that I unfortunately am not a huge fan of. But that's just because by the time I saw it, the jokes had been ruined for me.
Yeah.
But I think that's also a testament to how much the people who talked about it loved this movie. I don't blame those people for ruining the movie for me. They just wanted me to experience what they experienced, and they thought it was funny. But yeah, if this is a movie that you know a lot about and haven't seen it, you may not like it as much as if you go in blind.
Yeah.
I do think Cop Out is such a funny gag, though. I think the movie has the funniest thing ever.
Well, I mean, spoilers, but they ran out of money. So they didn't know how to end the movie. So they just ended.
Right, yeah.
It's kind of genius. Yeah, just the I'm trying to spoil it, but there's so many funny jokes. There's running gags throughout the movie. The running gag about the swallows carrying the coconuts. The running gag about there's always a cat getting beat in the background of several scenes. Like there's just an old lady just hitting a cat against a carpet. There's several jokes about people not really being dead. I got better. that joke comes up a lot. Just a very funny movie. And for it to just be low budget, I mean, they had no money. And you look at like a lot of modern comedies where they have a huge budget and they're terrible. And you look at something like this where they had no money, but the writing is so good. It's just kind of an incredible feat. I think this is the best of the three Monty Python movies. Some people will say Life of Brian's funnier, but that one's hard for me because it's very sacrilegious. Life of Brian, if you don't know, is about a guy that was born on like the same day as Jesus. So people keep mistaking him for Jesus. And they do a whole musical number on a crucifix during the crucifixion. So yeah, but Monty Python Holy Grail, just hilarious. It's an incredible movie.
Let me ask you this, because so for me, The Nice Guys is my favorite movie of all time, and so it is definitely my favorite comedy of all time. You said that your list could change tomorrow. Is Monty Python dead set as your number one comedy of all time?
Yes, I mean
Okay.
it's usually my favorite movie of all time. Although Everything Everywhere All at Once and Kung Fu Hustle, there are days they might jump in that number one spot, like for best movie overall. But comedy wise, God, the whole thing with the coconuts and the horses and the Black Knight and the Beast and the Holy Hand Grenade and there's just so many amazing jokes crammed into this movie.
Now, for me, one that I definitely thought was funny was She Turned Me Into a Newt.
Yes.
I got better.
I got better. Because they all just kind of look at him like, what are you talking about? You're a human.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. And the whole sequence of Sir Lancelot where he just massacres everybody at the wedding. He thought he was rescuing a princess, and it's just the sickly prince. And
Yeah.
that whole sequence is amazing. The speech about the tracts of land and how they keep building a castle on the swamp over and over. They keep falling into the swamp. Very funny movie. I just love it. I adore it. Sometimes you need a good laugh, and this one always makes me laugh.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So those were our lists. Very different. I think a lot of time comedies have to do with how old you are when you saw them.
Yes.
You see a lot of mine are older movies. Caleb's are a lot newer films. But then you'll watch something you haven't never seen. Like I didn't see Duck Soup till I was way older, and it's amazing. So don't be afraid of older films. Like Night at the Opera, Duck Soup, The Dictator. There's a lot of great stuff out there. So don't just think, oh, it's black and white, it's gonna be boring. Some of those movies will really surprise you.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, if we talked about like I love Hitchcock movies just in general.
Oh yeah. They are incredible. One that really surprised me, we may have talked about on the show, was the Dictator by Charlie Chaplin. Checked out that one here recently, and it was it's a very funny movie, but it's also a very moving movie. And I'm always fascinated by movies that were made during World War II, where they don't know how World War II is going to end. And he was poking fun at Germany, and he later he said, if I knew how bad the concentration camps really were, I would not have made this movie. But I think that's a really, comedies can be really tackle really serious issues, and I think that's a really important movie that people should check out. So.
Yeah, I mean, I guess in a way, it's kind of like because I think another movie that I would have put on my list, but I just couldn't, would have been the Borat movies. I couldn't put those on my list just because of how horrifying they are.
Yeah,
because of how real they are. So in a way, I guess that those are kind of like that. Now I will say that Borat they are hilarious. Sacha Baron Cohen is so funny, and who knows, maybe he will be our Mephisto. But yeah, no, this was fun. Maybe we need to start going with top fives.
Yeah, this was, I think what we may do is revisit this in a few months and say, here's 5 comedies we forgot, or maybe 5 comedies that nobody knows about. Something shorter, or maybe some different genres. We will.
Yeah.
So that's our show tonight. We hope you enjoy it. We'd love to hear what your favorite comedies are. There's so many great funny movies in there. We even talk about like Spinal Tap, or there's so many other just really funny movies out there, and it's really hard to get it to just 10. But we hope you enjoyed the show. Leave a comment, hit the like button, Tell your friends. We're trying to grow this audience. But until next time, I've been Final Monkey,
And I'm Caleb.
and we will talk to you next week. See ya.
See ya.
Stole your line.